starting off, this is a podcast and it has no name yet.
Call it Derek. Derek the podcast.
Yeah, Derek the podcast. Yeah, brilliant. So if you're looking at this later on and it has a name and you don't know why we're not mentioning it, that's why. So yeah, it's got no name. It may be about games. It may be about film. It may be about TV. It can be.
And
about
it may
anything,
be
really.
About Operation U-Tree. Anything that ends in E. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Well, games doesn't really end with E, but fuck it.
Well, game. But yeah.
Clutching at straws.
Yeah, tenuous. But yeah, I am your host. I'll just click the thing. Somniferous Lottie. Hey. And of course, I'm well known for wearing Hard Rock Cafe t-shirts.
It's well known across the universe for that.
Yeah. And with me is Owen Ward.
Way.
The Ripper of Ritzies.
I haven't ripped any Ritzies in a long time.
But yeah, you were asking before about this red thing here.
I was indeed. I'm really intrigued about this red thing.
It's a bag. You know, like you can.
Well, there's my Christmas ruined. I wanted like something amazing. It's a bag.
You know,
bloody
like
bag.
You know those really sort of like hard kind of material bags that they put gifts in. Yeah, it's that because I've got a microphone and I've got a pop filter, and they're made by the same people, but for some reason I can't attach the pop filter to the microphone. So I had to come up with various
Cameron's
ways.
Britain. Cameron's bloody Britain.
Yeah, because when I was doing the older podcasts, I used to have to get like a USB microphone and then feed it through like a kitchen roll holder as like a stand. But now that I've got, and then I used to have to like break a piece of kitchen roll off and then hold it over it as a pop filter. But now, what I'm having to do is use this bag because obviously it can take a bit of stress, and then sort of feed it through and then weigh it down with like CD cases. So that's how I'm able to be pop filtered, as it were. There'll be no hard consonants or hissing from me for the wonder of free bags that you get with gifts and stuff. And I guess it is also kind of a Christmas special, just because of when it is.
Everything
Why
is a
not?
Christmas special. You know, at the time of recording, we have an hour to go until Christmas Eve. So if we run until that hour, I don't care what we're talking about. I'm doing the countdown. I always do the countdown, so I don't care. I'm counting down to Christmas Eve, and I'm going to sing a song. Well, maybe.
I've been planning. Well, obviously, I've mentioned it all the time. I've been planning videos for like months, and then I end up putting them off because there are more things that I could add to them. Because obviously you know that I've done this sort of opinion video series called Garbled Mass, and the third one was meant to be about the problems with the 7th generation of consoles that are just sort of ending now, and the fact that a lot of the problems still exist in the new ones.
Right.
And so the more information that's been coming out about the new ones, the more I've added to it. You know, like there was the whole thing about the Xbox One DRM, and then that ended up not being a thing.
This is going to be the Chinese democracy of YouTube videos.
Why? Sorry, but does that mean that no one will like it? I don't know.
Hey, I like Chinese
democracy.
democracy.
I know you like Chinese democracy. But then again, I think we're both a bit got fringe opinions in that kind of sense, because both of us like Star Wars and both of us like the prequels. You know, you know, obviously, I think that may be more to do with I always accepted the original trilogy as being sort of big dumb fun.
Whoa.
Very, very
You're
fun.
forgetting who you've got here, lad.
Yeah, I know, but like I take the sort of canonical universe of anything very seriously, but when it comes to, I don't know, I can take fantastical stories seriously to an extent, but not to its own detriment, if you get me. It's not like I wasn't one of these people who thought, oh, Lucas has ruined it now. I was like, well, no, I'm now just liking it for slightly different reasons, like like when the whole, oh, Anakin, hold me like you did on Naboo. That's
classic.
That's hilarious to me. I see that as a better thing, it benefits the series.
Yeah.
I think the only one I find difficult to watch now is the Phantom Menace, and that's.
I actually think that's got better with age.
Do you?
It actually feels more like a Star Wars film to me than the other two, which is sort of, I don't know. It's weird. My thing with the prequels. It isn't that I don't hold them to the same level as the originals, but I can appreciate like what they are for what they are. I can see all the flaws in them as well, and there are some Star Wars fans who are just like, no, the prequels are perfect. They actually exist, believe it or not. And it's true. It's weird. I used to go to, well, I say used to go. I still go on a Star Wars forum called on theforce.net, and it used to, like, back when the prequels were coming out and such, there was a sort of really divided community of, we hate the prequels, we love the prequels, and yeah, they're all right. Whereas, after Revenge of the Sith happened, the people who really didn't like the prequels just thought, oh, no reason to stay here then, let's go and do some other things. So all, like, the prequel lovers sort of stayed there. And when the whole, like, Episode 7 announcement came, everyone who used to go on that site came flooding back, but now it's completely populated by, I forgot the term that the people use for it, but people who really enjoy the prequels, and now it's, even the mods are sort of like that. So you get some people doing a bit of criticism, and then they're like, whoa, none of that here, lad, none of that. And it's like, whoa, this is different than how it used to be, but fair play. I can't even remember what that started with then.
See, when I first watched it, when did it come out? 99, was it?
99 for Phantom Menace, and it's 3 years in between each one, so 2002 and 2005.
Yeah, I remember really being into the pod racing when it came out. But
we all were.
But that,
even the ones who hated the Phantom Menace thought pod race is good.
Yeah, but since then I've actually found that's one of the weaker parts of it.
Yeah, well, especially on DVD and Blu-ray, it's actually extended than what it was theatrically.
Right, well, that's maybe why.
So it's now sort of a lot more drawn out than it should be, which is it's meh. I can give or take.
Yeah. But things like like Watto and Boss Nass, and in Attack of the Clones, there's do you want to buy some death sticks and things like that. That that they're just like a joy to watch, and I'd rather have.
Yeah, I love all that stuff, mate.
Yeah, I'd rather have something that was that maybe I'm getting something. I'm finding. Well, I'm not always sure whether it's trying to be serious or if it is doing like a comic relief type thing. But then there's all sorts of things that I find sort of baffling. Like in Attack of the Clones, there's that guy, isn't there? The like a Dax or Jax or something like that.
Oh, Dexter Jetster, the four-armed,
yeah. Who's just in it for 5 minutes for no reason. But
I ain't seen one of these since I was prospecting on some Toral.
I have to watch all 6 of them at some point again. Yeah, it's probably been about 5 years. But yeah, Star Wars. What do you think about? Go on. Were you saying something?
I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh right,
Unless
I was
think
say,
connection's messing up, and I don't know.
Oh no! You just paused a sec. I was just wondering what would be the best thing to transition to, because I've got a couple of segues that I just thought of now. Speaking of, well, it would be either. Speaking of Hold Me Like You Did on Naboo, the Desolation of Smaug. Have you?
Why not?
Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, right. Well,
I saw the first one, and it didn't really impress me. So I haven't really been eager to go out and see this one. I probably will over the new year or something. But I don't care about spoilers or anything. I've read the book, so say whatever you want to say.
I'll keep it brief because obviously if you've not seen it, it's
Well, I'm guessing a lot of the problems sort of I have with it will be consistent. Well, with the first one will be consistent with the second one.
I don't think so, because a lot of people were saying that the first film was padded out with exposition. This one's more padded out with action sequences.
Right.
And there's also the reason why I did that segue was because there's a not very good romance subplot in it. Between 2 characters who you probably don't care about that much, but they keep on with it anyway. And it definitely feels like they had to pad it out to make it into 3 films, because it ends. Because it's got so much padding, and then it ends like probably about half an hour before the whole story would have ended.
Well, it was originally just going to be 2.
I know, but it really shows. What do you know about the way that it was originally going to be made? Because I know that it was going to be Peter Jackson, and then it got moved to Guillermo del Toro.
I think it was always going to be Del Toro first, and it wasn't until I can't remember why he went off it. It was a scheduling thing or something, or he just couldn't do it. I don't know, but Peter Jackson was always really hesitant to go back to it seems. But I don't really know much of what it would have been like, so I don't know. But
from what I know, and I've not seen any of his films, so correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't his films usually have a sort of horror type tinge to them? And I'm wondering that because there was a scene in each of the 2 films which sort of seems out of place in a way, like it's more horror focused than the rest of the film. Now, the bit where Sylvester McCoy is running away from some sort of Black Spectre type figure in a forest. Obviously as Radagast, and then in the new one they're walking through Mirkwood, and the forest is sort of affecting their minds, and so it's they're getting lost and all this kind of stuff. It only lasts a minute or so, and they're getting confused and they're all passing out, and they don't realise, but they're walking in circles and all these kind of things. But and the sort of the thumping type music in the background's really ominous. Whereas the rest of it's all sort of very Jolly D and we're taking the hobbits to Isengard type thing. But yeah, I found it. See, I liked the first one, but that's because I liked that they focused a lot more on the Shire aspect.
Yeah, I liked all sort of the Shire stuff, and I think my main problem with The Hobbit was it tried to be consistent with Lord of the Rings, but it also sort of failed at being consistent in a way. Sort of like, well, a lot of people had a problem with Radagast. I didn't so much, but there are like some bits where he's like, whatever he's doing is just seems a little bit too goofy or whatever, and like as it would seem out of place if it was in the Lord of the Rings. That's sort of like one of the little things I had a problem with. But it just seemed to be a lot of I don't know. It's been about a year since I've seen it, so I can't really remember everything. But I don't know. That was the main feeling I got. It's like they were trying sort of too hard for it to mix in with Lord of the Rings, but at the same time couldn't really do it that way. So I would have liked it if and I think that's what Del Toro was going to do if he was going to be directing it. He would have been a lot more, this is what I see Middle Earth as being like, as opposed to trying to be in sort of the same universe-ish, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, as well, with the first one, I don't know if it's still the same with the second one, it seemed like it was, okay, walking, plot. Oh, we're getting into some trouble, and then saved by dwarves, da-da-da-da. And then we have a little walk again, oh, trouble, saved by dwarves.
Yeah. So, I'm because it's been, I don't know how long, I was definitely less than 10. I was definitely younger than 10 when, so it's over 10 years ago that I read The Hobbit. Probably over 15 years ago, but I don't really remember everything about it. So do you know if Legolas is in the book?
No, he wasn't in the book, but when I read it, it was one of them where it said, oh, Legolas is probably knocking about here.
Right, yeah.
So I'm not too fussed like that, they've put Legolas in, but, you'll be able to speak for it. It does seem like they've sort of shoehorned him in a bit too much.
Yeah, the the sort of dumb stuff he did in 2000, like that thing in Helm's Deep, where he gets a shield and then sort of like skateboards down like a flight of stairs. And
tell me you've never done some shield surfing.
Oh, well, I've never lived, evidently. But the thing is, well, obviously you've read the book, the sequence where they use the barrels to escape.
Yeah.
Well, they do that again, but now there are also orcs, which apparently weren't there before. And
I don't remember them being there.
So at first the elves are trying to stop them escaping. Oh, by the way, spoilers, anyone? I'll do that when I make the post or whatever. Spoilers for Hobbit and whatever else. But yeah, so they're escaping in the barrels, and the elves are trying to stop them at first, and then the orcs start attacking, and so then the elves start attacking the orcs, and then it's like this sequence where, this is the bit where I was like, okay, it's jumped the shark now. It's which is where they're on these barrels going down the stream, and then Legolas runs across the side of the river and then jumps on their heads. So he's got on the heads of the people in the barrels and then fires arrows at them and then jumps, turns around, and so his legs have swapped around, and then fires them in the opposite direction and then does it again. I was just like, oh, come on, this is a bit much. I mean, shield surfing was one thing. But this is just a whole other kind of dumb.
That's sort of another example of sort of like the cartooniness that was in the first one, I think. I can't remember where, like, it was all over the first one in like little bits. We'll say like they'd fall off like a massive, whatever they were falling off. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, the mountain with a tree that's very, very slowly falling down.
It's like they fall off and like crash into stuff, and then they just get up like, oh, that was a bit, whoa, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
If you're trying to be consistent, either go completely different, or stay like how it was. It's in a sort of weird, almost uncanny valley middle ground.
Yeah.
And it's like it is Middle Earth-ish.
Yeah. The other thing is that obviously, in addition to the other padding, is that they're quite clearly trying to link it in with Lord of the Rings, sort of like in terms of Sauron.
Yeah.
So again, I can't remember whether this was in the book. Was Sauron as the necromancer, as they call him here, was he present at all? Because it's
ish. It's more of like there's one line at some point, I can't remember if it's near the end or whatever, but Gandalf just goes off and just like, oh, there's some business with the necromancer. And
right.
Like, all right, see you later.
Okay. Well, that's one of the things, is like the sort of, I'm assuming that it's going to be that the third film is going to be essentially two final battles. The obvious one, and then the Sauron one. That said, Benedict Cumberbatch is great as both of them. But yeah, so just finishing off, what I do like is that, obviously I play games a lot, so I'm used to seeing things in 60 frames a second.
Oh, right, there we go.
What was the matter?
No, it excites me.
The high frame rate stuff?
Well, not necessarily excites me, but it's gonna. Yeah, this will be fun.
Yeah. Oh right. But yeah. Obviously, I'm used to playing games in like 60 frames a second. So when I watch films in, normally it's just sort of like a bit dreary looking. So that when even if it's just something as slight as, that bit in the first film when all of the dwarves fall through the door, it just seems it's more like you're actually there kind of thing, watching it, like a fly on the wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the same kind of thing I feel about good, well implemented 3D. Like as long as it's not being put in afterwards, or if they've not got things poking out at you. Actually, there was a stupid thing in the new film. The unnecessary bees. They walk into an area with bees, and then the bees start coming out of the screen in like negative parallax or whatever it's called. And then there's one bee, and then there's a second, and then a third, and then the next scene there's another bee, and they're the only things that poke out of the screen, thankfully. But yeah, unnecessary 3D does annoy me. But well implemented can be a good thing. It's like I've always got two segues. I'll just probably go back to the original one. Obviously, we were talking about Star Wars. Have you seen Star Trek Into Darkness? And if you have or haven't, what do you feel about episode 7 with regards to that?
Right, okay, I could probably go on for days.
Okay, go
on. Just to backtrack slightly, I'm not a fan of 48 frames a second in a film.
Okay.
But for the reasons why you say you like it, it seems too real for me.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm not. It instantly puts me off in a weird way. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm not used to it or whatever.
Yep.
I don't know. But it's like, say, when I'm playing around with my camera, I can change the frame rate. Even going up to, say, like 30 frames a second, I'm like, that's dodgy. Stay away from that. But like when I go up to something more like 50 or even 60, it's just it doesn't do it for me at all. But I am a fan of 3D, so
yeah.
But yeah, Star Trek Into Darkness, despite what a lot of angry Trek fans think, I bloody well enjoyed it. It was a lot of good fun. Yeah, there was too much. Well, not even too much. There was some bits where it was just a bit too much. I remember Wrath of Khan, but okay, it was fun. And episode 7. As soon as I heard, JJ was gonna do it, I was just like, yeah, okay, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
And I was watching Into Darkness with that sort of in mind, and all throughout it, I was just like, yeah, JJ's gonna nail it.
So yeah.
So I'm happy.
Yeah, because whenever I watch Star Trek films, it's a bit weird because I like the Star Trek episodes I've seen, but I've not seen many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's not entirely true. Because we got the box sets of them a while back, and all of the first series was bad. This is Next Gen I'm talking about.
All right.
And then, obviously, it's not even the same sort of canonical. Well, it's the same canon, but you know what I mean. And then, like, the first third or so of the second series is bad. And then after that, it just suddenly changes like that. I think it's like when a certain character dies, then it just starts becoming good.
The general consensus is sort of like season 3 is where it picks up.
Oh, yeah.
But so something like that. I don't know. With Next Generation, for me, I watched it all out of order.
Oh, yeah.
Just like whenever an episode was on Sky One or something. But if you want to watch some Star Trek, always go back to the original one.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing at all like sort of how I imagined it would be. Because I was used to like Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and all that. And while I liked Next Generation, wasn't a fan of the other stuff. It just seemed a bit too. I know it was just a bit boring, really. So I watched the few episodes of the original series, sort of like hesitant, like I'll give it a go. And it's really fun.
Yeah.
It's a really fun show. And I just recommend it, even if you think you might not like it.
Well,
just give it a go.
Obviously we're both fans of the old and the new Doctor Who's, so I can obviously.
Which is still shocking for me to hear you.
Well,
say
no. It's no. But I have sort of a high tolerance. In fact, I don't think high tolerance is the word because I actually like it. I like naff special effects.
Yeah.
Like the Drashigs, like glove puppets in front of a blue screen, and then they're standing in front of a blue screen that's projecting that. And then they're going like, oh, like looking at something that's meant to be in the sky, and it's just like an effect of some kind, or an explosion on a miniature, or whatever. Just things like that. So I'm assuming that I'd probably find that sort of if there was any sort of that in the original Star Trek, I'd find it charming more than anything else.
Well, the thing is, it's not as bad as you'd expect when, like, in terms of all that stuff as well, because that came about. It was a couple of years after Doctor Who started, and like it's the production values and such. It's way higher, and I think it still looks good. Not necessarily, holds up to what we can do today, but you watch it and you're not just like, look at that, it's bubble wrap.
Yeah. What was I going to transition to? I think we sort of covered it. Oh yeah, we've got it being Christmas approaching. We've got the
Well, hey, calm down, Santa's on his way.
Yeah, we've got that to look forward to. No, incidentally, I think wasn't it that same year that all those sort of music TV channels decided that they were never going to show any of those kinds of Christmas songs ever again? I think it was because
I don't remember that happening.
Because I never saw it once.
No one did. But
oh yeah. But yeah, what I was trying to say was the Christmas specials, and specifically Doctor Who, because indeed, and we're gonna have. It's going to be Matt Smith's last one, isn't it? And
It
Peter
is.
Capaldi's first appearance, and hopefully,
Well,
possibly.
second appearance.
Oh well, yeah. Apart from the
Spoilers.
eyes appearing in the last episode. Incidentally, what did you think about the anniversary special?
I just fangasmed throughout the whole thing, pretty much. It's just like a massive grin on my face throughout the whole thing, and like when there was that like little glimpse of Peter Capaldi's eyes, I'm pretty sure I squealed and like jumped out of my seat a little bit. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've watched it once since, and just to sort of make sure it wasn't, just like special anniversary goggles and all that, like sort of taking my view. But no, I still think it holds up. I really enjoy it. There's a lot of sort of controversy about, the War Doctor.
Oh yeah.
But
What like whether he counts or not?
yeah, who cares? Just there's another Doctor. Be happy about. You've got John Hurt as the Doctor. Be happy about that. Stop moaning, you knobhead.
Yeah, I am sort of curious whether that potion means that it doesn't count as a number, and or whether we do actually have to move them all up one now. And
Well, there's actually something Stephen Moffat has said. Well, reportedly has said. I don't know if there's any legitimacy to it or whatever. But Matt Smith is actually the 13th because David Tennant's like sort of half regeneration where he put it into his hand, that apparently also counts as you using up one.
Right.
And so that, well, this is how the rumour's going. We're going to find out in a couple of days.
But then,
but yeah, the rumour is that it's like he'll find out, oh shit, this is my last life, which sort of goes to the whole Trenzalore things, like that's where he dies,
right,
that's his grave. And then when he actually regenerates, that's a shock to him, and he's like, whoa, this isn't supposed to happen, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Oh, wait, but why have I regenerated?
The thing is then, if that happened, right, so if he is the 13th, and that means that David Tennant was the 12th.
And the 11th.
And the 11th. So, if that's true, then... See, this is the thing. I'm talking about something that's fairly spoilerific, but it's for something that's, a long time ago. You know what I'm... do you know what I'm talking about? The sort of maybe other Doctor that maybe kind of existed between...
Oh, that one, yeah. The Valiard.
Yeah, the Valiard.
The Brickyard.
What I'm thinking is the Valiard, is that the Dream Lord, or is that the Metacrisis, or what? Or is it something else entirely? Because I was looking forward to, all right, well, if Capaldi's a 12th, that means that the Valiard story is going to be in there somewhere. But
well, it's hard to say because we still don't really know who the Valiard one is, because he was I think what was the line? Just like a manifestation of the Doctor between his 12th and 13th or whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean like he went off for a bit and did some naughty stuff. Yeah. It could be like, I don't know, there was some space virus that got him, and then it became its own being or something. So maybe the Dream Lord. I don't know.
Like Metroid Fusion. Yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah. So like it could be anything. And in the name of the Doctor, what Richard E. Grant was saying, like all the different names, like the Doctor is known as. The Valiard is one of them, but then again, time travel, could be whatever.
Just on, which should I go on first? Oh yeah, Richard E. Grant. Have I told you? I've told you about this, haven't I?
I don't know. I don't know what you're going to
say. I'm a big fan, as you know, of the old, original black and white Doctor Who's. So I've listened to quite a few of the audiobooks. Now, that people have comprised from when they took recordings from the screen, and things like, and then put narration on the top of it so it makes sense to just audio. But the one.
Just to interrupt you for you just a second, if anyone's listening and wants to check out some reconstruction type stuff, look into Loose Cannon, because they do basically the same thing. They've got the audio recordings, but they place it over any sort of existing footage that there already is, and little screenshots or publicity photos, or they try and make it as watchable as possible. And the ones I've seen have been really good, so check them out if you can. Anyway, as you say,
that sounds neat. I'll probably look at it afterwards as well. But yeah, the one sort of enemy that I found the most interesting was the one that was in the 2 Yeti stories, the Great Intelligence.
Oh yeah.
And it's like this sort of cosmic being that we don't ever see, but it controls robot Yetis. From although it's like and also random people like the abbot of the Buddhist monastery in the Abominable Snowmen.
You're just making me think of what was the pitch for the episode?
Yeah.
Right, Great Intelligence.
Yeah.
There's these fellas and they've got Yetis and they're messing about.
And then we've got this pyramid thing of glass spheres that it uses to control the Yeti, and then it sort of oozes fluid every now and then. But yeah, the Great Intelligence was sort of one of my favourite Doctor Who adversary type villains of ever. And so when I saw that Christmas special, was it last year or the year before, where when they brought it back into a giant snow globe. Now, I like that, and this brings into another thing I don't like about New Who, is the use of sort of an all-star cast they keep doing. They had Ian McKellen play it first in the snow globe, and then they had Richard E. Grant play it in the series finale. But it's just not the same. It's not the same villain, And then the Whisper Men. What's the point of them? That they just exist, and they whisper. Oh no! I mean, they're just like a.
Well, when you're having a whisper, there's got to be a job. Someone's got to give them a job. Yeah, it was a care in the community thing. That's So
they're sort of a step up from silence. Is silence then whisper. And then they're also going to be very
next series we're gonna have the loud Western race. It just come in and go wait up!
Yeah, that'll be it. I wouldn't put it past Moffat. But aren't the Angels coming back in the next one as well?
The next one's sort of it's sort of like the Pandorica opens part 2, it seems.
Well, a bigger box opens and villains. More of time.
It seems like it's one of them where all the villains are coming together again to doing the Doctor or whatever. And I really don't know much about it. I've pretty much just seen what little has been officially released of it and read the odd little speculation thing online.
Well, just a slight diversion. You haven't played BioShock Infinite, have you?
No.
Right. Well, I was playing the game. It's sort of it's a first-person shooter with RPG elements, and it's based in a city in the sky in the year 1912. So it's kind of well, not steam. Would it be steampunk? Well, I suppose steam is hot air, isn't it? Because it's like a city held up by hot air balloons. But it just struck me that about 2/3 of the way through, that the story in that reminds me a lot of, especially Series 5 of New Who, and also bits of Series 6. Because there's this whole sort of multiverse type thing going on, and you can hop between parallel dimensions. And so there's these tears in the fabric of reality, which look,
cracks,
cracks
if you will.
And then there's another thing that makes it a lot more like that specific series. But if I mention it, it is a spoiler for something very near the end. But suffice to say that some things that happen to Amy kind of happen in BioShock, and if you get me,
okay.
I don't want to elaborate too much because I mean the game did come out in March, but then I only just played it like a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
But yeah, video games. That's
they're a laugh, aren't they?
It's that's probably one that I'm going to be talking about if I can get this like games of the year video done, because I want to do a video that's more like based around the games that came out, but not ranking them in order of like how I like them, because mainly because BioShock Infinite is a game that I'm very conflicted on, because it's got a brilliant sort of composition of its universe, and it's got great soundtrack, great gameplay, and then it's let down by some absolutely moronic design choices, like that sort of apply to a lot of recent games. In the first two BioShock games, you could carry all your weapons. Now you can only carry 2 at a time. You used to be able to save manually. Now you have to go to checkpoints.
Right.
And that wouldn't be a problem, but I was playing on the hardest mode, and when you're on the hardest mode, if you run out of, you have to pay like $100 every time you need to respawn, and when
that's not real money.
no, it's not like a really bad microtransaction.
That's not a microtransaction.
No, I do wonder about that, like why do you call them macro transactions or something? I mean like microtransactions themselves aren't really small enough. I mean, if it was like literally like tens of pennies, then I would sort of agree with them, because then everyone would sort of what I mean is I would pay sometimes for things like that, but then there's other things like you can't carry medkits, so it returns to like the whole, you've got a regenerating shield and you've got to hide behind things, right. and yeah, it's got problems, but I like it a lot, and because it's got the whole universe, you know you can like peering between universes. They've got elements of pieces of music that shouldn't be there. Like in the beginning of the game, obviously it's 1912, and you walk around the corner, and then there's like this tram car that floats past, and then there's a barbershop quartet singing "God Only Knows" by the Beach Boys, like 50 years before it was written, and then there's a bit where you're at like a seaside fun fair, and then there's like a calliope, like that. The sort of fun fair type organ you always hear in things, playing an instrumental version of "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," and so it's interesting, and it's an interesting game to talk about, but I don't know if it would make a top 10 of games this year, and then there's all sorts of other things like games I want to put in, I can't make capture footage of, like 3DS games and PS Vita games. So I'm probably going to just do like a January, what came out in January, and then sort of like arrange it like that. But yeah, well, what games have you been playing this year? The only thing I know you've been playing really is Pokemon. Well,
that's the big one really for me. I'm pretty much exclusively a Nintendo gamer just because that's all I really own, and I never really get to. I not necessarily don't have the time to sort of play more stuff, but just I don't know, I don't like to whatever. But yeah, I don't constantly play stuff all the time, so I usually just go for like Nintendo exclusives. Your Zelda, your Pokemon and such. So yeah, Pokemon has been the big one for me this year, but some other ones have been. We've got the Wind Waker HD remake, which I didn't get to finish because Pokemon came out like the week after, so I just need to get round to sorting that out again. The Super Luigi U, that was fun.
Yeah.
I say was. I still haven't got past like World 3 or whatever.
Yeah. I got up to the jungle, and then I couldn't. Then I kept getting stuck because there are a couple of people I know who are really good at 2D Mario games, so that whenever they make a new Super Mario Brothers game, they're always the ones complaining that it's way too easy. But they said like, oh, you actually die on some of the levels in this game about Luigi U, and I was like, well, and then in my case, it's the only one where I've actually ran out of lives. But yeah, it has. Yeah, I'm primarily I primarily play Nintendo on Nintendo platforms, but that's because I think that I'm there's always sort of an element of, at least the last two generations between Microsoft and Sony, it's been more of an arms race in terms of graphical power, but Nintendo sort of plays by their own rules. And I'm more about stylized graphics than that are consistent with like their own style and are in some cases timeless, than trying to chase realism and like, oh, I've you've got like 10 people working on mapping the pores in someone's face and stuff like that. When you get to that level, it's just, what are you doing with your life?
Not to insult any.
No, not to insult.
We're doing this.
not to insult anyone who is, but it's just, it feels like it's getting too far away from. Well, what's fun about it? If you get me, if it's getting away from the actual play and more into sort of, well, why not work at Pixar or something? If
yeah, well, that's sort of where it seems to be going. It's a lot of try and be more like an interactive movie type of thing, which, but because I don't really follow what a lot like the other ones are doing because I don't I don't own the system, so what's the point?
Yeah.
But for me, it's sort of like, well, I like what Nintendo put out, so I get their stuff. But at the same time, it's sort of a bit annoying just because, say when there's just some like big game that comes out on the other ones and it's missed out on Nintendo, it's sort of like when there's a big blockbuster film comes out, and even though it's probably going to be shit, you're just like, I still wouldn't mind giving it a go, but I can't be bothered paying 300 quid for this and then that, and then it's just going to be crap, and I'll stick with Zelda.
Yeah. But I'm actually probably soon. I mean, when I made my name change official, I'm probably going to be doing that. Is that I'm going to be trying to sign up to the Nintendo Web Framework so that I can get a Wii U dev unit, and of course, with every Wii U dev unit, you get a free copy of Unity that works specifically for the Wii U, which is, of course, like, it makes everything a lot easier when you actually get the software for free and you don't have to pay for licenses and stuff. Because I've got like a document full of like all sorts of like I don't know, like 30 plus game ideas, and then I've got some which are just like a sentence, and then some of them like that are more fleshed out.
Yeah.
I posted one of them publicly on Twitter the other day, which was a farming sim like Harvest Moon, but instead you play as an anthropomorphic pig, and so you're trying to harvest vegetables while all of the townspeople are kind of racist against you, and they all want to eat you. So you're
work.
Yeah. So you're trying to protect your crops and your livelihood and grow them, and also not get killed by people in your sleep and stuff.
That could work nicely as well on Wii U for local multiplayer, in the sort of same way that a lot of stuff in Nintendo Land works, where like someone's the pig and then someone else is the human.
Yeah. I've actually, but that's the thing is, when I see like, especially with the Wii and even more so with the Wii U, I get ideas for games that wouldn't work any other way, and so I kind of, it makes me a bit sad that there aren't more developers developing for it because they care more about power. Well, in my case, I just think generally, if you've not got enough power, make the graphics simpler until you can do it properly. Because one of the things that I want to do on a Wii U game that you can't really do on another console is to make a real-time strategy game. I mean, you can't do that without having to plug in, a mouse and keyboard otherwise. But you've got the like the sticks for like camera manipulation, and then you can like sort of like drag and drop to select units and stuff like that. But yeah, the Wii U, it's weird because it's had. I only think it suffers in comparison to the 3DS, which has had a really, really good year this year. And in fact, what's come out? There's been Pokemon, there's been Fire Emblem Awakening, there's been Soul Hackers, there's Etrian Odyssey 4, there's Bravely Default, which just came out. There's all these games.
Link Between Worlds as well.
Link Between Worlds. The fact that I would forget a game like that, what I would forget.
I've not played it yet. I'm getting it for Christmas.
It's right. I'll talk about that briefly. It is possibly, I think saying this, I've got to put the caveat. I'm not a major fan of the 2D Zelda games. That's my first Zelda game was A Link to the Past. And I've still not completed it. I got it in 2000. I got it in 2008 on the Virtual Console, and then the week afterwards, I got Ocarina of Time, and then I was like, oh, I don't like Ocarina, and then I went straight back to Link to the Past, and because a lot of the. I'm sorry, my brain goes like in 10 different directions, and I'm trying to think which strand to go with.
Northeast, that one.
Northeast, that one there. But yeah, on a slight tangent, I had a bit of a problem with Ocarina at first because of the way the whole intro section is set up. In Kakariko. Yeah, Kokiri Village.
Yeah.
That one, yeah.
I feel bad that I forgot that myself then.
Yeah, but and I think it's partly due to the way it's set up, and also partly due to the fact that I was playing it in 50 hertz. So it's like but because when we moved to 3D first, everything was running really slowly.
Yeah.
So when you've got that compounded by the fact that it's in 50 hertz, it's just like a snail's pace the whole game's running at. And then it's like you've got to go walk around, and like playing a game, like there's things that I'm sort of used to from playing more modern games. Like I was used to having a quest journal telling me where I needed to go at any one time, and then I could like select that, and then that appears on the compass, so I know where I'm meant to be going next. Then there was what happened? I don't even know. This is the thing. Random strands, and then they just suddenly disappear whenever
I think I had the same problem with Ocarina of Time when I first played it, because my first Zelda game was Wind Waker, and I got the bundle which had Ocarina and Master Quest included.
Yeah.
So I came off the back of Wind Waker, and that whole beginning section as well for me, I was just like, well, what am I doing? And it really sort of confused me and put me off a couple of times. But in hindsight, I really appreciate it, because it feels so good when you're just like, oh, that's what you do. It's obvious now, bloody hell.
Yeah. But the reason why I brought that up is because I know a lot of people who complain about the opening of Skyward Sword being too long.
Right.
And I generally think that it's about the same length as the opening of Ocarina, from what I remember.
I think the thing with Skyward Sword is, in terms of opening length, in Ocarina you can get your sword and shield and that pretty much not right away, but pretty near the beginning, and you're in the gear and you're just like, okay, I'm Link / I've got a mini dungeon ahead of me. Whereas with Skyward Sword, you haven't got all the Link typical outfit on. You haven't got the sword, and then you get a sword, and then it's just like, hang on, come and fly a bird, or is it before or something like that? I can see why that can put some people off, but I really enjoyed Skyward Sword, and at the time it came out, it seemed like everyone else did as well. But now it seems like a lot of people have not liking it at all, which is, I don't know.
I think generally
there's a bit of a Zelda cycle, really. Once a new one comes out, people are initially like either, oh my god, it's amazing, or it's terrible, and then it takes until the next one to come out when people are just like, oh no, it's a classic. What are you on about? Whereas Link Between Worlds, I've seen nothing but unanimous praise for. So
yeah, I've only seen. Sorry, I just got a question there. I've only seen two reviews that said it was just okay. Everyone else seems to love it. But I was saying that about Skyward Sword. Well, then there's a lot of things that people, because Skyward Sword is probably my favourite 3D Zelda.
Right.
And
it's in my top 3, I'd say.
Yeah. But then there's things like a lot of people don't like the harp. And it's my favourite instrument, and that's because it's the only one you can sort of, because have you ever tried to use it when you don't have to? So you can get out the harp.
I have, but I can't really remember what happened.
Because what happens is, it's sort of like you're jamming along to the tune of the area.
Oh, right.
So when you're in Skyloft where there's no music and you're just sort of like playing the harp back and forth, it plays the Song of the Goddess. So I'm just walking around town playing the Song of the Goddess. So
I can see why people didn't like it though, because with the ocarina and such, you could actually, if you knew the notes, you could play any song type of thing, and that's
and then
that's a fun little diversion.
And then you could also use the stick to bend the notes, so you could do the notes that you never needed to use. So you can do it in different keys and stuff. Okay. But yeah, back on Link Between Worlds, it's very quick to start, and when you get into Lorule, I think it's like a quarter or a third into the game that happens. You're allowed to take the dungeons in any order, because all you need is one. You need the starting items that you get from the first 3 or 4 dungeons, I think it is, and then one more, and then that's it. So, say for example, I realised that to enter this dungeon in Lorule, you needed there's a flow of lava just continuously going upwards. and you can't jump. Like it's like a great gap between, and so you've got to. What you do is you get the ice rod, freeze the column of lava so it turns into rock, and then you merge into the wall and rotate around it to get in. So it's about application, lots of different applications of the same item within a dungeon, rather than having like a whole list of items and then you're like, oh well, which of these do I use, and then just brushing them against each item you have until you find the solution. And then there's a dungeon I'm in at the moment where it's sort of like a dungeon for bombs and also the lantern, because the lantern's one of the starting items. So that it's in the dark, there are platforms that aren't visible, but there are other platforms that are only visible in the dark, if you get me. So,
right, okay.
So when you're carrying the lantern like that, the platforms disappear, and so then there's some that you leave like the lantern lit, and there's some where you have to sort of like deactivate them, and then there's areas where it gives you hints when there's no light, like sort of like arrows and stuff going in a direction. But yeah,
I've not seen much of it, but I've watched like a couple of clips and like video reviews and such, and I can tell it's going to be a fun Christmas.
Yeah, it gives you the most freedom of in terms of the order in which you take the dungeons than I think any game in the series since the original.
Well, that's something a lot of people have been sort of speaking out that they want from Zelda. They want a lot more freedom. They want, and there's the whole item renting thing as well. A lot of people seem to be really in favour of that. And just to stop a second, it's now 10 seconds away from Christmas Eve.
Okay.
So I'm going to count down. Okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's Christmas Eve when the snowman brings the snow. Oh, well, you just might like to know. I told you I'm gonna sing a song.
That's how it goes. But yeah, I've actually not played that much of it. I've only played it for about 11 or 12 hours, and I think it's. Well, I think
that's still a fair bit compared to some games.
I think I'm going to complete it in about 20, maybe 30 hours. But I know people who've completed it in under 10. It's going to be a game. Yeah,
but there's always people who seem to do it in a silly hour.
Yeah, there are going to be people. This is going to be a great one for speedrunners. Because of the freedom it gives you in the item. I mean, you do still need to go to every dungeon and get the thing at the end.
Yeah.
One thing a lot of people have been confused about, though, was they were thinking that the heart containers... the like essential item that you need to get at the end of every dungeon only appears when you pick up the heart container. That's not strictly true. What happens is the heart container appears, and then 3 seconds passes, and then the other thing appears. So there's a lot of people who are like, oh no, I can't do it, and then they just pick it up, when they want to do a 3 heart run. But they don't realise. So that's just one point for anyone listening. But yeah, it's a great game, great music. I'm not sure whether it's using live instruments or sequenced.
I've heard it is, I think. It sounds familiar that it is.
Because...
Well, Nintendo were doing that a lot lately, so it wouldn't surprise me.
But then I've heard the same thing about Pokemon X and Y, that's sequenced music rather than live instruments.
It sounds sequenced to me.
Yeah, some of it is, definitely. Just a quick diversion onto Pokemon. I really like because I'm a fan of Killer 7. And in that game, there is, in every level, there's a corridor. And there's a piece of music called Rave On. Yes, like the guy.
Rave On!
Yeah,
Sorry,
like the guy from Phoenix Night.
Couldn't resist.
Yeah. And the song. And then this piece of
discriminate.
yeah, this piece of music, which may have any gender that it feels it identifies as, it only appears when you're in this one corridor in every level. Now there's nothing to do in this corridor except walk through it. And so to listen to the whole piece of music, you have to actively stop moving and to listen to the whole thing. And I like that they did that same thing in Route 1, was it? Like just outside of your hometown, there's like this like little type tune that's where there's like a very small road and nothing to do on it, no one to speak with or anything. It's just like,
yeah.
Like it's like 15 or 20 blocks, and you just walk. Like you have to actively stop to listen to the whole thing. I thought that was quite cute. But generally with Pokemon X and Y, I don't know what I think, because when I played it, I thought, oh, this is the best Pokemon game. And then I went back and started trying to finish off Black and White. And then I was like, actually, it's and then I went to Sapphire, because I remembered that that's as far as I can like transfer forward, because I never completed Sapphire. And then I bought Platinum recently, like an Amazon warehouse deal. So it's like used, but they've cleaned it and everything, so it's like not used anymore. So I played all like bits of all them, and then I was like, well, I completed Black and White, and then I played bits of the others, and then I was like, actually, the sort of main campaign, the main not storyline, would it be? But you get what I mean. The main what you do in X and Y seems to be the weakest for me.
Yeah, I'd say that. But then again, I think maybe, say if it was just Team Plasma instead of Team Flare in X and Y, I think that could have just stepped it up a lot more, because Team Flare for me is sort of the only real weakness, I think, just because they don't do anything apart from come over to you, piss on your chips for a bit and say, we're stylish, you're not. Yeah.
But because it seems to be like it depends on what people think of X and Y depends entirely on how important they find the social features. Because there's not a lot of post-game content if you're not playing online against people.
Yeah, that was something that was a bit disappointing for me. As well as just the number of new Pokemon. Cause that's one of the things I always look forward to, seeing like, there's 100 and whatever new ones. And then, because copies of it got out early, and so people were leaking all the new stuff. And I was like, it was a good week on the internet where you just like refresh. That one looks, he's all right. That one, he's all right. So and then there's only like, I think it's 79 or something new ones. It's the smallest amount that there's ever been. So that was a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
But I think overall, as a whole experience, I've really been liking it, because I think to me, Pokemon's more of like, each one I see it more as an expansion pack type of thing, because I always like transfer all my old ones over and all this over, and it's just, all right, now I'm in a different region, just doing what I was before type of thing. So I forgot what the point was I was going on, but And all the online stuff, I've really enjoyed Wonder Trade. I
Yeah.
didn't like it at first because obviously
kept
when it
getting
first came out, everyone was
Caterpies.
just giving away pieces of crap.
Yeah.
But now it's been out for a while. It's always quite good, and I actually breed. I've been doing a lot of breeding and such, and I just
Yeah.
give away all like my ones that I
Yeah.
didn't want on the Wonder Trade,
I think that's.
and I just feel happy about it. I'm just like, oh, aren't I nice?
Yeah.
And then someone gives me a Caterpie, and just like, you're an arse.
Yeah.
I know you've probably only just started a game. That's all you can get me. You're an arse.
Yeah, I feel. I might as well just admit to it now. I feel pretty bad that in the very early days of Wonder Trade, I gave away a Lady Bear and got a golem, and then it was a graveler, and then it evolved into a golem immediately because of trade.
Oh, nice of them.
And then, nice of them, not of me. But then I, for some reason, I did it again, and got what's the sword called?
Oh, there's Asia Slash as
The base one.
Final evolution. What?
There's the Aegis Slash, Double Aid, but what's the original one?
Ah.
Hone Edge.
Hone Edge, yeah.
Yeah. That one. I got one of them, and then I felt really bad. So then I was just like, I'm now not using Wonder Trade again until I have something good to give away. So there's part of me that thinks I'm just... But then... I don't know. I've not done it since launch, really. But...
Well, if you want to pick it up, Christmas Day could possibly be really good for it because there's a sort of a campaign going on at the minute for people to breed, like sort of like Pokemon that people want for anyone who sort of open it up on Christmas.
Yeah.
So they're not being like inundated with Caterpies and such. So there's all like EVs and then like all the different starters and version exclusives and all that good stuff. People are apparently putting out. So if you want, give it a go.
I actually know someone who was really into the whole evolutions thing, and so they've got like a whole Pokemon box full of EVs. But yeah, I think because the thing is, obviously I've completed pretty much everything. The only thing I need to do is finish off, that post-game quest with the... Oh, well, I might as well just say it because it happens in seemingly... It's happened in the last two generations, hasn't it? The Looker quest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I
haven't even started that one yet, actually.
Yeah, I just got to finish that off. I stopped playing because there was a bit where it says you've got to examine a lot of bookcases to find a thing. And then I was just like, because... you look at it and it says, oh, you found nothing, oh, you found nothing, oh, you found nothing, and then you've got to keep going through them and then trying to find the ones that have got the actual documents you need. And then I think it's like once you found the first one, then the second one will appear somewhere, and then the third one will appear somewhere, or something like that, until you find all of them. But yeah, I will definitely be playing X and Y, but not so much... But now that I've completed it, it's less as a game and more as an app for the social features. So I'm going back to all the older games, and then I'm going to transfer them forward, with Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Transfer in there. Especially since it's only like $4.50 a year, something like that.
So something like that, and there's a free 30-day trial anyway.
Yeah.
And anyone who doesn't want to pay you, just transfer all your stuff on the first day, you're done. And you've got a Celebi.
Yeah. But that's another thing I was wondering about. What do you think? What do you feel about event Pokemon?
I'm a fan of them. Right. It depends. Are we talking in-person events or online ones, or just in general?
In general, because the issue I'm thinking about is because, on the other console, like the non-Nintendo consoles, there have been problems with what they call on-disc DLC, where they distribute content that is on... They make you pay for content that is on the disc. They're just making you pay for an unlock key to unlock it.
Yeah.
Say, for example, Street Fighter Cross Tekken has loads of characters on the disc that are locked, but they are there. And so there are people who'd been hacking the disc to get at the content that they've paid for, essentially. But that's kind of how I feel. It's not how I feel about Event Pokemon. I'm sort of in between, because obviously you're not paying more money for it. You just need to have had it at the right time. But then again, there's things like, is it right that because I only just bought Black and White, I only bought, Pokemon Black 2 a month or two ago, that I can now no longer get Genesect ever? You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's sort of, because with Pokemon they always want to encourage trading, and I think that's sort of one of the ways they're trying to go about it. Because if there's always, say, like Genesect available, then no one's going to say like, "Well, I've got a Genesect. Do you want to trade for that?" So I think that's one of the ways that they're trying to do it. So it doesn't bother me as much, because I think finding trades is always pretty easy enough online. Because you can go onto like any sort of Pokemon website or whatever. There's whole forums dedicated to trading, event ones.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are just like nice enough to give them away for nothing, pretty much. Because there's some people who go in, they've got like 10 carts, and they're just like, right, I'm going in and getting loads of Mews tomorrow. Who wants one?
This is the
type of thing.
Just 2 points. One is that I won, because I've not actually played it, but I've seen video of it. Isn't it Getsis who has Genesect in Black and White, in the Black and White 2 event? Because if he does,
no, you just get given it.
Well, because I thought I've seen a battle against an NPC who I thought was Getsis with Genesect. Because if that's the case, then isn't that kind of like story content that they've cut off there?
No, the Genesect one, it was pretty much just because it came out on launch, I think, and you just mystery gift, press A, and then you went to the Pokemon. Like, it was, you could get Genesect before you could get Pokeballs, pretty much. So your party was your starter and Genesect. So it was pretty, but it wasn't really a story thing. They've done stuff like that in the past, but it's not really story based. It's just you get an item which sort of triggers an event.
Yeah.
Which then lets you get, Celebi or whatever.
Or like one thing I noticed was that I had 2 Pokemon from Soul Silver, I think. One of them was a Celebi, and the other one was a shiny Entei.
Yeah.
And both of them unlock events in Black and White. One of them,
I forgot about that.
Zorua and Zoroark.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've not really got an opinion. I like asking the question, kind of thing.
There's also, like, for people who do, miss the events and stuff, there is the solution, which some people might say is cheating. I don't really. But, when people go to the event, there's, if you ever heard of a website called, I forgot what it's even called now.
Smaug?
PokeCheck.
Oh, right.
No, PokeCheck. It's like a sort of, I don't want to say like a hack to GTS type of thing, but it's one where you can basically upload your Pokemon online and then anyone else can download it.
Yeah. So
the Pokemon themselves are still legitimate. They're not like, hacked, stats or whatever. So if I miss one, I just go to somewhere like there and get it. And I'm not like, oh, it's cheating because, well, I couldn't go, could I? I'm not gonna, meh.
Yeah. But yeah. Yeah. So what do you think they're going to do next? Do you think they're going to do Pokemon Z, or do you think they're going to do like a downloadable expansion? Because the sort of
Well, there is a Z Pokemon.
oh yeah,
so
I know that Zygarde, yeah.
it would imply that. Um, I don't know, because the thing is with the it's hard to tell with the past ones, like with the third games, if they could just sort of be an expansion or an update, because a lot of them have sort of a lot of under the hood type things, which technically make it a completely different game and such. But I don't know, because I don't really know much about that process, so I'm not too sure.
I'm just been saying that, but
Um,
because the sort of hints that they've dropped about, you know, do you know what I mean? They like dropped hints about a new region already. It seems a bit weird that
yeah,
they would advertise
I
that
think that
this
I
early.
think that's one of those things where they do it a lot in like the generation beforehand. They'll put like a little hint as to what's coming next. There was I can't remember who it was. There was a video on YouTube that I saw the other day, which was basically a compilation of all those types of
Yeah.
things. And there was one in say like Gen 3 where some characters just saying, "Oh, one day I wish we'll be able to connect with the dreams of
Oh
Pokemon." And
yeah,
then
yeah,
Gen 4 came out and it's like, "Hey, Dream Radar!" Ha ha ha.
yeah.
So I think that just could be one of those, but I think it's also sort of teasing a lot of the people who've been really wanting a Gen 3 remake,
Yeah.
because there's that's been like the big thing that people have been wanting, just like remake Gen 3, go on, do it. And I think they were just sort of fucking with them a little bit, or there may actually be one. I don't know.
But what was I gonna say?
Pamphlet.
No, we're not pamphlets. That's not the word I was gonna say. But something about the Pokemons. I don't know. God, it's just left me. It's left me. Guys. Oh, yeah. Well, the concept of it being a them possibly doing like a retail run of Z, which would be like the content of X and Y plus the content of the DLC
Yeah,
expansion, but also doing the DLC expansion separately for people who already own it, because otherwise, because like if you've already got,
I think
say, yeah,
I'd like it to be more like what Gen 5 was like. I liked how it was more of a
a
a
sequel,
sequel than
yeah,
the same game but a bit different. So they could still do it with Z. Z looks a bit like a two,
oh yeah,
but instead of having two versions,
yeah,
it's just the one sequel. I think that could work.
yeah. Oh, that was what I was going to say. Just remembered. It was from. I saw a video recently where they were like you said, sort of foreshadowing things that would be in later games, and I think it was like Gen 1 or 2. There was an NPC who says, "Oh, I'd love to see something like I'd love to see a Pokemon with a floral pattern on it."
Oh yeah, that was Gen 1.
Yeah, and then of course it wasn't until Gen 5 that we get Muna with the floral pattern on it. Um, so something like that. That's like what, 10 years? Is that over? Probably.
Oh, it's more than
Yeah,
that.
more than
It's
10 years between the two. Yeah, it was 2011, wasn't it? That Black and White came out. So or 2010 if we're going by the Japanese date.
somewhere around then,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. So it's over 10 years, but things like that. What? Where, I'm really curious about that mysterious girl as well that everyone's saying is a ghost or maybe not.
Oh yeah. Um, I personally think that's just another one of the little like type of Easter eggy things that Game Freak does.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff like that in every game, and I don't know. Like lately, you've got the whole sort of rise and trend of like the Lavender Town creepypasta and such, and I think that's sort of maybe Game Freak just sort of like tipping the hat to all the people who are into that kind of stuff to make a little theory about that girl. And
so do you think that it could be that the girl will do something when it's someone's trainer ID matches up with a set number, because she says you're not the one, so I'm assuming there would only be like one cartridge that
it could also be they might bring out an event Pokemon, and when you have that in your party something might happen then. But there's sort of no real way of knowing at the minute.
But what I'm saying,
because like back in previous generations, DS was hacked sort of right away. So as soon as the game came out, people could have a look and go, "Oh, there's going to be this thing that can happen. This thing can happen." But at the minute, no one really knows what's in store for the future. So it's good. It's weird.
Yeah. But what I'm sort of meant was that, do you think that could be what it is, like that that it is a trainer ID, or do you think it could be that Game Freak are just messing with people at this point?
I think it's more likely them just messing about, personally. But I don't know if it would be specifically one person like with a cartridge. And I think if it was more widespread than that, someone will have had it by now. If it was like, I don't know, all the digits have to add up to a prime number or something. Statistically, we would have seen something by now. I think most likely explanation is either they're just messing about, or it's some sort of event thing that will be triggered.
It could be on the other sort of stuff, like related to. I've not actually tried it, but I've heard about like there are all the hotels, and then there are the people who are in the hotels sort of rotate around every day, and so if you talk to each one of them like concurrently, they'll give you more information. And then one of them says, "I am from a region."
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and there's one of them who says, "I am from another region," and then at first some people thought, "Oh, that means home remakes confirmed." But then he says, but I'm not from Kanto, I'm not from Johto, I'm not from Hone, I'm not from Sinnoh, and I'm not from
Unova.
Unova. I'm not from any of those. So people are thinking, and that's what is now leading people to think.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, that's what's leading people to now think that there will be a new region in an expansion pack, which I'm assuming would lead to, like, say, another 60, 70 Pokemon, maybe.
Yeah.
With probably a couple...
See, that would be quite... Well, they can do that now with 3DS. Yeah. So that would be nice.
On the other hand, one thing I think I hope they can fix with a patch somehow with a 3DS is that the online features sort of go off like that as soon as you open the console menu. So
yep. Or if you close the lid.
Yeah, or if you close the lid. So where I'm like going around in my, what's it called this time? Not the C gear. What's it called?
Thingy. PSS?
Yes, something like PSS. Like I activate that, and then I get a little light on my 3DS saying someone's logged online. So I open the menu and go, oh, who is it? And then I look, and I go back. I see, oh, it's this person. Go back to the game, and then I realise that I've got to now go through the logging in process again, which takes another like 15 to 30 seconds.
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting...
I'm surprised they haven't patched that already, because, they got into some of the other things pretty quick.
Yeah. But But yeah, I'm glad to see more Nintendo games with more of an online component that that works basically, and also exists, because a lot of games are still only local multiplayer. I mean, granted, local multiplayer is still, in my opinion, the best multiplayer. There's nothing really beats having people in the same room as you. But then obviously, if you've got friends who live in different countries, it's your only option. So just because that sort of made me think of it, have you played Wii Sports Club at all?
Just a little bit. I got the free trial, and I played tennis for a bit. I had no idea it was online, so when I saw that feature, I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Yeah. Got battered online. Yeah. I'm terrible at tennis. It appears, but yeah, that was a welcome addition. I felt.
Did you redeem that around the time the original game came out?
I'm pretty sure it was on the day it came out.
Right. Okay, because now that they've added golf, they've opened up another 24-hour.
Oh, we can do it again. Ah.
And I think golf is, to me, a lot better. It's the only one I've actually bought now. Of the three, I don't really. Bowling is the only other one I can see myself buying, especially for those. Because for anyone who's listening, because this is the whole thing, is because it's just the two of us talking. I keep forgetting that there might be people listening to this ever. But they've got all the, or rather they haven't yet, but they will be having all 5 sports from the original Wii Sports with online multiplayer, updated controls for Motion Plus, and then these new, they're called Skill Shaper, arcadey type challenges that you just keep on replaying and replaying, and then they've got like an online leaderboards thing there. So, and the other thing was that, do you remember that tech demo from when they first announced the Wii U, where they've got a person standing over the gamepad with the golf ball.
Yeah.
That's what this is. And you look at that, and think, oh, there's a ball on there, and then they hit it, and then the ball moves, and you're like, well, what's the point of that? Well, in the actual thing, it also shows you the head of the golf club, so you can see when when you've got it not straight, and so when you need to, like, say, alter your stance, or when you need to recalibrate or something like that. So it's actually quite useful, and not at all just like a stupid add-on like I originally thought it was going to be. But that's quite fun online, because they also give you like the flexibility. You can play either one hole, 3 random holes, or a full 9-hole course. And of course they've now got a new course which is based on the NES golf game.
Oh yeah, I remember them saying that.
But this is what another thing I like is that Nintendo seem to be adopting new business models. Now, I'd agree with a lot of people that I wouldn't recommend buying all 5 Wii Sports Club games at $8.99 in price. I would say it wouldn't be worth it for that, but I'd say buy the one you want the most, and then play the other ones when you get a day pass. You'll probably with the free trial you get when you start it, you will know probably which ones you'll want to keep and which ones you're like, I'll play it at some point.
Speaking of which, I'm really liking the whole like 1-day pass thing that they've been doing lately. When I first heard about it, I thought that sounds a bit daft, but I tried it with the Wii U karaoke.
Oh yeah.
But as soon as I tried it, I was just like, well, I'm never probably gonna purchase the full thing anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm probably never gonna get like 40 quid's worth of goes of this game anyway. So I don't know. I like it just a quid for a sing for an hour. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Because I love karaoke. Because what I when it came out back in 2008, I had this the big Rock Band box.
Yeah.
And the thing was, you had the plastic guitar and you had the plastic drums, and then you also had a USB microphone. Turns out I ended up using it mainly as a karaoke tool, and so I'd pay like £40 for 70 songs, and then I would just sing them as like probably I'd have like an hour a week when I would sing like a set list of so many songs. And then my voice would start going, and so I'd have to stop anyway. So when we've got We Karaoke You, they started off with 1,500 songs, and they've been adding at least 50 every week since it launched. And then when they add Japanese songs, I think they add 100. So I think it's like 3 week in a month. It's like 3 weeks of 50 English songs and then 1 week of 100 Japanese. So it's
right.
Oh, my brain's just gone. What's that? 500 songs a month? Am I right?
So just loads.
Yeah, it's loads. It's loads.
We don't care about
and then,
maths
of course,
here.
the whole thing of if you wanted a song that wasn't on the disc in like a Rock Band game, you had to pay money for DLC. Whereas this, you can, rather than having to pay for 10 or 20 songs you like, you just pay for the session you want to have, and then that's it. You don't have to do anything.
And yeah, it works really well, I think, especially for stuff like this, which people are more likely to play when, say, they've got people round and they just want to do something for a couple of hours. Whereas like it wouldn't work for something like fucking Zelda. It's like quid for an hour of Zelda. Fuck it off.
They actually seem to remember them. I can't remember whether it was. I think it might be Nawata who mentioned this, that they were considering how they could put microtransactions in Animal Crossing, and then they felt that it would have been detrimental to the game if they did that. So they decided against it. Yeah. A lot of people complain about Nintendo that they're late to adopt things, but I find that it's not that they're late, it's that they're not hasty to adopt it, and that they do it in a more consumer-friendly way that, you want to pay money for. I've... you know what I mean. The DLC for Pikmin 3. Obviously, Pikmin 3 is another one of my favourite games this year.
Still not got round to that.
You should.
There's quite a fair bit of stuff that I still haven't got round to yet, like Pikmin 3 and Wonderful 101. And so I've not got round to those two, but I'm hesitant to pick them up around Christmas because
they'll go down in price.
I know I'm gonna have. No, because I've got Mario 3D World, I've got like Link Between Worlds and such, and I know I'll focus on them, and then I'll sort of forget about the other two, and then when I've finished them, it's just the way I am. I won't instinctively go right. That's next.
Yeah.
It's the newness is a reason to play for me, so. It'll probably sometime after, and then there's got Donkey Kong out, and then
Donkey Kong in Feb, and of course Dr. Luigi in January.
Yeah.
If you're into puzzle games, I played the GBA, the version that's on WarioWare for that.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, Pikmin 3, the DLC for that, because this is another thing I quite like, is that the DLC for that and New Super Mario Bros. 2 is focused on high-end players alone. What they didn't. I'm not too keen on the pricing model they had for New Super Mario Bros. 2, because the game itself of New Super Mario Bros. 2 isn't that great, but when you then replay the levels in coin rush mode and you try, because they cut the time limit you have to like a quarter of what it usually is. Have you played it?
I haven't.
All right. Well, that's what they did. They cut it to a quarter of what they usually have, and then you've still got to get to the end of the level, but you've also got to try and grab as many coins as you can. And then the other thing is, if you can, usually when you jump to the goalpost and you hit the top, and then you get a bonus life, and like a 1-up. That changes to like a ×2 multiplier of the coins that you got throughout that level. And so when the idea was it was something that you would replay over and over and over and over and over again, and then they created DLC levels that you could get, which were even harder. And so it's extra content for high level players who have been replaying something over and over again. Is something I like a lot. Like in Pikmin 3, they've got mission modes, which is you've got a limited amount of time, and you've got to try. Say for example, you've got to try and get all the treasure in the level, or as much treasure as possible within the amount of time you've got. And so it's just about trying to. All right, well, if I'm doing this over here, I've got to guide this person over here, and then get them to grab these Pikmin over here, throw them over there, and then they'll just continuously walk in a pattern to build a bridge or whatever for the other ones to walk across. And so then what they did was, for Pikmin 3, they released remixed versions of the 5 mission stages they had. Well, it's not strictly true, but for the treasure ones they did, it was just like harder versions of the existing levels, and then the kill enemies ones, it was based on the levels in the single player game rather than the original missions. And then of course the new one is both modes. With new sort of like Christmassy themed levels, but the pricing they've got on them is great, because I think it's 5 levels each time, and they give away the first one free to everyone.
Right.
So if you download the update, you've got 4 free levels in addition to the ones you've already got.
That's not
and then
bad.
I think it's like the remix levels are like $179 or something each. So that's 4 levels, $179, really cheap. And then like £4 something for the Christmassy themed new ones. Just on the subject of Pikmin 3, because this is the thing that annoys me. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh well, there's still nothing on the Wii U to make me buy it." But I was like, well, the 2 games that I've enjoyed the most this year are Pikmin 3 and The Wonderful 101, and they're both on the Wii U exclusively.
The 2 ones I haven't had a chance to have.
But
it's because they came out in summer and they had no money. Bloody summer.
What's great about Pikmin 3 and why I think literally everyone should play it is because it has this. And then another thing is that, see, my brain tangents. That Nintendo often, I think, don't realise what they're doing brilliantly, and I think that's partly due to them possibly not doing it for that reason. If you get me. Because what I see Pikmin 3 as being is perfect difficulty setting. There's no difficulty settings. It's just the one thing, and the harder you try and push it, the better you try and be at the game, the harder the game kind of fights back. Because I think there are 5 or 6 bosses in the game. No. Yeah, 5. And each one of them will stay damaged by the amount of damage you've inflicted on them. So, between days. So what happens is you could fight a boss and lose like all of the Pikmin you had out of the onions, and then the next day you could spend like 2 days rebuilding your army, and then you could go back and fight it again, and then just keep on whittling down its health. But at the same time, for the higher level players, there's the leaderboards, and so you can try and speed run it and in as few days as possible. And if you're like looking for the real challenge, there's probably no better series than Pikmin to do a no-death run of, because Pikmin die all of the time. If you accidentally make a turn too quickly, and then some Pikmin accidentally fall off the side of a platform where they're like drowning in water or something, and you don't rescue them, they're dead. So things like that. But the Wonderful 101.
I'm gonna have to stop here. My battery's going, so I need to get charged.
Okay, and we're back.
Hey!
And yeah, I'll just mention the Wonderful 101 quickly because obviously I'm going to be gushing.
Is it wonderful?
It is my new favourite game.
Way!
Yeah, high praise indeed.
See, it's one of that. I've had a look at it. I'm not sure if it'll be my thing or not, but I really want to try it.
Have you played the demo?
I didn't know there was one.
There is, yeah.
there
However,
we go, then.
The demo is a not great reflection of the game, but it'll give you an idea of what it's like a bit. It gives you the opening level because I'll just try and be brief because I will be just absolutely gushing about this game in when I do the video. It's no game for me has ever matched its sort of quality, quantity, and variety. It's a 20-hour game. It's a 20-hour action game like Bayonetta. But it's like 3 times the length, and also the combat system is better, and there's no sort of skimping on the budget, or rather, they have such a very like a wonderful art style that sort of manages to mask the budget, because in Bayonetta they had to rush half of the cutscenes, so there's like bits where they didn't animate any of the characters, so they're just like a character standing there, and then they put some dialogue over the top of it. But in this, the localization, again, when you credit people, I don't want to make it seem like it's like one person who did all the work. Of course, it's never like that. But I know that Alexander O. Smith worked on the localization of The Wonderful 101, and he's the guy who did more important for me. He worked on Final Fantasy 12, which to me has the best localization of any game. It's basically Shakespeare, but in an RPG. But more importantly, probably for you, it's. What did he do? Yeah, he was involved in the localization of Ace Attorney. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and also he supervised the second and third Ace Attorney games localization, and it's a sort of similar kind of thing, because it's this is sort of like camp superhero humor, it's a Saturday morning cartoon, basically.
Well, visually, it sort of reminded me a little bit of Beautiful Joe. Is it anything sort of like that?
Yeah, well, it's directed directed by the same guy,
right.
And see, everyone who plays it sort of interprets it differently. I sometimes say it's like Bayonetta, but better in every way. And Bayonetta is already the best action game, but now it's the best game. And then there's other people who say, I heard someone say I think it was Jonathan Holmes said that it was everything he would have wanted in a Beautiful Joe 3, moving to 3D.
Right, yeah.
It's not quite 3D because it's an isometric camera angle. It's like sort of at a fixed angle. So it's sort of between. I'd say it's between like a 3D game and a side scroller.
Right. Okay.
The only bit where I think it sort of falls off a bit is where there's like a couple of short platforming sequences, which doesn't work great with the camera angle. You'll probably fall down and have to do it again. But yeah, it's just got a great battle system. And also, incidentally, if you do play it, I'd recommend using the right stick, because you've got to like draw a symbol to change the morph that you're using. Do you know how the combat system works?
I've pretty much no idea.
Okay.
Anything to do with it. I just saw like videos and thought that was
basically
good.
You've got a crowd of people surrounding you, and you draw symbols to make them transform into like a large weapon. And the larger you draw the symbol, the larger the weapon. The more powerful it is, the more damage per second it does, but the slower the attacks are. So it means that you're more vulnerable to attack. So you could draw if it's just an enemy that you're sort of like that has very quick attacks, you have to draw like a small weapon and then just sort of like chip damage away at it.
Right. Okay.
And then there's some that only have like specific weaknesses, like there's like there's a giant enemy crab, and you draw a sort of like zigzag shape with a stick, and then that turns you into Unite Claw. So like these giant sort of like claw things. And then you use that to when you've subdued the creature, you jump on top of it and then use it to pry open the weak spot, and then you can attack it. Things like that. And every weapon has like a secondary function. Like the sword opens locked doors. The hand can open can operate machinery. Guns can shoot targets, which also operate machinery. The whip can be used to like swing, like Indiana Jones or whatever. So altogether, it's a really crazy, flamboyant, camp, brilliant game. The other thing, the other sort of like caveat I have to make is that it doesn't always tell you what you need to do. So there might be a bit where you're struggling with something like or like a slight difference in the control. And like in the first major boss, it's like a giant flying Orochi kind of thing, and you've got to attack. What do you do? Oh yeah, you've got to unite build, which is this thing where you throw people into something to build like a structure. So you've got to like sort of kill one of the heads of this like 2 or 3 headed dragon thing, and then when that head's dead, you sort of throw your people into it. But then what happened was I didn't realise that if you press the run button, which is what I'd been doing, then all of the people jump back out again. So I was like, when one of the other heads was there trying to attack me, I'd run away. And every time I'd run away, it would make them all fall out again. So what you have to do is walk away earlier on. So little things like that it doesn't tell you. But then there's Platinum are always like that. They leave things up to for people to discover, essentially, and that can be a thing in its like a positive point in itself for a lot of people. Not everyone. There are a lot of people who don't like the Wonderful 101, but for me, yeah, it is my new favourite game. So are there any other games and or films you wanted to discuss before I go to questions?
I'm not too sure. I'm one of those who's really bad at remembering what came out this year.
Right. Oh yeah, I remember a while back I posted something that made you buy Animal Crossing. Have you played that at all?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's one of those that I pick it up every now and then. Well, which the same way I played the GameCube one.
Yeah.
Um, so I just every now and then I'll have a little go for 5 minutes. It's not really a everyday type of thing. I still don't think I even have my house.
Oh.
Actually, I might have the house now. I can't remember. It's been a while. Pokemon happened, so
Yeah. But yeah, Animal Crossing's. It just made me think of something. A lot of people talking about wanting Nintendo to sort of combine their online ID system, so that the ID system is now the same across the 3DS and the Wii U, but they want purchases to also matter as well. So if they buy a virtual like Mega Man X on 3DS, then they want to be able to play it on the Wii U as well without having to pay again.
I would.
Yeah, that would be great. But another thing I want them to do is combine Miiverse. Well, part of me thinks they should do this at least have the option there where you can combine a post for Miiverse and image share at the same time, because obviously
Yeah.
So you can.
Well, I haven't used image share pretty much at all because it's a bit tedious to do. Really.
I mean, it's weird because sometimes they take this really scatterbrained approach. Because do you remember a few months ago they released that free Animal Crossing channel on the Wii U, which had it.
No.
Well, they did, and it's got its own Miiverse community. So the idea was that you would connect your 3DS to the Wii U, and then you'd transfer photos across, and then on the Wii U you'd post to Miiverse through that.
Right.
But now what they've done is they've added Miiverse to the 3DS, and Animal Crossing has its own. New Leaf has its own community. So that other thing doesn't need to be there anymore, really. But just quickly, have you played NES Remix?
I haven't, and I'm hesitant to get it because I know it'll be good, and it looks good, but I just can't really justify paying the amount that it is for it. But that's not to say I don't think it's like worth that much or anything. It's just I have no money.
Oh yeah.
And maybe if it was, it's another thing as well. I really don't like paying for for downloads in a weird way.
Right.
I don't know. It's just I've gotten a lot better with it recently. Sure, I paid full price for Animal Crossing and such.
Yeah.
But I don't know, any download that's sort of over like a tenner or something is a bit. Ooh, I don't know.
Oh, well, it's
I know
under
if
a tenner.
if it was on disc. What?
It's under a tenner, but
Is it? I thought it was.
It's $8.99.
16. Oh, fair. I'll fucking get it. I saw that was like.
I think it's probably $16.
Right.
That would make sense.
Sorry, I'll get it then.
All right.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting thing because it obviously takes these old NES games and then makes it into something that's a little bit like WarioWare in places.
Yeah.
And or sometimes it just gives you like a little objective that wouldn't be a specific objective in the game. Like, say, for example, in Excite Bike, one of the stages says, all right, well, we want you to knock over 5 bikes without crashing yourself. And so to do that, you have to accelerate in front of them and then back into them, and then do that continuously. I'll just look into the store right now, seeing what's on there. Trying to see if there's any of those. There were quite a few special offers the other day. Because have you been buying any of the Two Tribes games? Because they've been releasing them for like under £2 each.
No, well, when I say I've got no money, literally I've been past my overdraft limit
Oh,
like
right.
a month and such. So
It's just
even if I try, it won't let me.
yeah.
You know.
Um, that's sad because all three of the two tribes games are now on there for like 179. Tokitori,
Hmm.
Edge, and Rush, and I think that's
Ah.
it's pretty. This is the sad thing is that I, I think in for most developers and publishers they seem to I don't know where I'm going with this. They seem to want Nintendo to fail because then they'll have an excuse never to support them. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
But
Well,
with develop,
it's one of them where there's so many like different things going on. Everyone's playing different angles and such. You don't really know what is going on
yeah.
at all.
So yeah. Overall, yeah. I think that's it really. Just I think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, go on.
Man of Steel. I liked it.
The film.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not really into superhero films generally.
Mm.
I think it's just the concept of I don't find people who are powerful interesting a lot of the time. I'd probably be more likely to be interested to hear a story of someone who is the kind of person that a superhero would rescue, like how they would get out of a situation
Yeah.
by themselves. That's the kind of thing I'd be more interested in. But then again, I did like. I think the only one I've seen is The Dark Knight, and I liked that a bit.
No, it's like a lot of people really did not like Man of Steel, and I just like to sort of defend it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say defend it. I like to just go, I like
Yeah.
it.
I remember people saying like, isn't it kind of made in a way that he's not necessarily the good guy?
No, it's basically spoilers for the end, but Superman kills Zod, the bad guy,
Okay.
and because he's Superman, people are just like, he's Superman and he shouldn't kill.
Oh, right.
But it's obvious where like the end of it is like he kills Zod and he instantly is just like, I shouldn't have done that.
What is Christian
And then,
Bale
like-
voice?
No, that was just me with a shit throat.
Oh, right. Sorry.
He just goes, oh, and doesn't look happy for a bit.
Yeah.
But there's also a big controversy about like during the like he had his fight with Zod and pretty much like half of Metropolis got like made into rubble or something.
Yeah, I heard that.
And then people are just like, well, Superman wouldn't do that. He'd take him out into the field. And my thing is like, well, he's not Superman yet. This is his first go.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He's not going to
Oh,
get
is it
it
an
all
origin
right
story thing?
Ish. Well, yeah, it's pretty much like a complete Superman reboot type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was obvious to me watching it. He's just like, oh, well, that's going to play into the sequel type of
Yeah.
thing. Probably Lex Luthor or something because he's got the money to regenerate Metropolis and all that, whatever. And he'll say like, oh, that's Superman. He's dodgy him. We shouldn't like him.
Yeah.
Because look what he did to Metropolis. I was like, it's obvious that's where they're going, and a lot of people sort of can't really seem to see that, or they're just like, no, Superman should be perfect from the beginning.
Yeah.
He should never have baby steps. But no, I enjoyed it. It was good fun, and it made me really sort of want to see a live-action Dragon Ball Z film done right.
Oh, right, done right.
Because
the caveat, yeah.
done right. Because the end fight with Superman, well, actually, a lot of just like the action sequences in it, because I don't know if you know anything about Superman, but Zod is another Kryptonian. So they both have like the same powers. So they're both flying around and just kicking shit out of each other, knocking buildings down and such. And it is exactly like how you'd want a Dragon Ball Z fight to be like
Yeah.
in live action. And I was watching it going, oh my god, if this is Goku and like
Yeah.
Frieza. Oh.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a long time, if ever, until that happens.
Yeah. So, what films and or games and or TV events are you looking forward to in the next year then that we know of?
Well, there's actually quite a fair bit coming out, which is now not in my mind, and I feel like a knobhead. But someone posted a list of like, well, no, they posted the trailer for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which I think it's only a teaser, but it looks pretty cool, and I really enjoyed the first one. So they posted the teaser for that. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that was even coming out, and it's next year, so that looks good. But they posted like a list of a lot of other things that are coming out next year, and there's a lot of good stuff coming out, and I cannot remember them now, and I feel terrible. Because in my head, I've had it like 2015 is going to be the big year because you've got like Avengers 2 and you've got Episode 7, you've got Superman, Batman, all the big tentpole films are 2015. But there's a lot of sort of like ones you wouldn't really think about which are coming out next year. I'll Google it because I feel terrible.
Obviously myself, I don't...
Godzilla!
Godzilla, yes.
I'm insanely looking forward to Godzilla.
How many reboots is that then?
Um...
And because I'm not really familiar with Godzilla as a franchise.
Well, Godzilla in the Japanese versions has technically 3 different series. There's the original one, which ran for... It's like... The first one was 1954, I think, and they ran until mid-70s. It started out... The original Godzilla, if you've not seen it, is amazing and still sort of holds up today. Yeah. And it's like a really sort of... It's a pretty serious, film. It's taken... it's not really campy at all. Whereas as it went on, it become more like... Well, Godzilla stopped becoming the enemy, and he started becoming like, more like a mascot in a way. And like he'd fight for the Earth as opposed to just like he's having a wander about and there's another monster and he's just like, fuck off, kick the shit out of you. So it became really silly and campy and such. And then it went away for a while and they rebooted it again in the 80s with a sequel to the original film, but like ignoring everything else that happened. Yeah. And that didn't run for as long, but it's considered to be, a lot better than some of the campy ones. And that was ran till I think it was the mid-90s, and it was sort of more of a continuous story, not necessarily a continuous story, but it was all sort of linked. Whereas the original series was like, on this time Godzilla fights this guy, and now it's this guy. And then that went away for a while, and around the turn of the millennium they released a few more, which was like a different series, but they're just standalone. Yeah. So they don't really connect at all with each other or any of the previous ones. And that was sort of like more like a Godzilla Greatest Hits type of thing. Because, well, they had... One of them was Godzilla Final Wars, which literally had every other Godzilla monster in it. Yeah. And they even had the American Godzilla in there for a bit. So that's 3 series of the old Godzillas. Yeah. And then we had the American one in the mid-90s.
The Jim Jamiroquai one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's generally how I remember it. Yeah.
Which some would say is not a Godzilla film, but, And then it's this new one, which we don't really know anything about it. I know Gareth Edwards has said he wants it to be more like, the original Godzilla from the 50s, but whether it's linked, story-wise with it, we don't know at the minute. But the trailer looks really good.
So as someone who... The only kaiju film I've seen is Gamera, Guardian of the Universe. I think it's
Right.
So where?
I've pretty much only seen Godzilla ones.
Right.
So,
So where would be a good place for me to start then? Because I am sort of curious.
go for the original, because
The 50s one.
yeah, it's depending on where you look. Some will call it Gojira just because they're trying to be purist, but it's just Godzilla. It's just called Godzilla. But there's an American version of it, which is when they brought it out in the States, they filmed like extra bits to try and make it more accessible, and like it was cut around and such. But I recommend going for the Japanese one.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's pretty much up to you really, because that's the only one that sort of the other ones refer to.
Yeah.
Because like you've got the 80s reboot, which was a continuation from that.
Yeah.
Or like, you can go on to the more like Monster of the Week type ones, which are a lot more see, the thing is, because I sort of grew up watching them, I don't see them as silly.
Yeah.
But you can't help but laugh at them in hindsight. So it just depends what exactly it is you want from it, because there's so many different types of Godzilla films out there.
I think
But my favourite one is Mothra versus Godzilla, which is one of the it's one of the early ones when it comes to when they were pairing Godzilla off against a different monster, but it was early enough that it wasn't completely silly yet.
Yeah.
So I think that one's really, really good one to look at. It's one of them you can just sort of mix and match and dive into whatever you want.
Yeah. But then I was just thinking then that I've tried, there've been times like this when I've like bought like a few films from a series that I've not seen before, and or that I'm trying to get into like another part of a series. Like say for example, I think it was last year I bought myself the Batman anthology thing.
Oh yeah.
And I only watched the first one. And I never got around to any of the other ones. But then I kind of want to just skip to Batman and Robin, so I can.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, so
it doesn't matter.
I can see that in all its glory, because that's the one I've been looking for. That's the reason why I bought it.
So you've not seen it?
Yeah, I know. I've seen so many. Freeze is
haven't-
coming. I've seen so many clips of it.
You haven't lived.
I'll probably do that straight after this.
Well, see with those, the 1989 Batman, I'm a fan of it. It's good. Still holds up today, I think. The second Batman Returns, I see it more as just a Tim Burton film with a guy dressed as Batman in it. It's it's not that great. Batman Forever is a lot better than people give it credit for, but it is when it starts to descend into the more Batman and Robin-esque type of thing, and Batman and Robin is the classic that we know it as today.
What was I going to say? Have they released? Obviously, could you Google this for me? I can't do it, obviously with this setup. Like a DVD or Blu-ray collection of the Adam West series, because that's probably
no. There's rights issues behind that. I can't remember exactly what it is. That's whoever the network was that produced it. Is something that they still hold the rights to stuff, but because Warner Brothers own DC, there's a bit of a legal shite.
Oh, just quick diversion. I absolutely hate them. I think they're examples of some of the worst games ever made. But what do you think of the Batman Arkham games as a Batman fan?
I really enjoy them, and it is more to do with being a Batman fan than a fan of games. Because the first one, had a lot of the creative team behind the animated series from the 90s, that is my Batman that I grew up with and such. So it feels just like a continuation of that. And I play it more for just like, as a Batman story than a game. I've not played Arkham Origins yet, but that's what I'm going to be getting for Christmas, I think, maybe. I don't know, but the other two, I really enjoyed them.
Yeah. I wouldn't really look forward to Origins. Don't get your hopes too high for that, because I've heard really bad things. I mean, my problems with the first two games are more to do with from a gameplay perspective. It feels too easy for me. Like you just press the attack button and then they do an attack at you and you do the counter button, and then they do a knife at you and you press the other counter button. So that to me, just as a game, is too easy. But if I was if I had history with the Batman series, I could definitely see myself getting invested in it. But yeah,
it is sort of one of them, like you play for the cutscenes in a way,
right? Yeah. So you sort of like seeing what they do with the license kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it's just I'm not too sure, but I think Paul Dini had something to do with. I don't know if he wrote one of them or all of them, or just came up with story elements. But he was one of the main writers for the animated series, so I like to sort of see everything Batman related that he does, because I know I'm always going to get a good, a Batman story that appeals to my tastes.
Yeah.
And as well, I think it's one of the closest representations of what Batman actually is in the comics, in like other sort of medium, and it's nice and it's refreshing to see. As well as like villains that have never been in any of the films or such getting a spotlight, and it's nice. I like seeing what they do to put like a new spin on characters that we've seen all the time and such.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just good fun, I think, as well. It's gameplay wise, I'd say it probably is the equivalent of maybe like a summer blockbuster where you can just switch your mind off and just have a casual little play and whatnot. But no, I enjoy them. I am still a bit hesitant about Arkham Origins, but that's mainly because if I'm right, it's a different team behind it.
Yeah, different developer.
As well. Yeah, different developer, but the main thing was when I found out it was a different voice cast.
Yeah.
So that's as soon as I found that out, it put me off a bit. But I don't know. We'll see.
From what I've heard, though, that Troy Baker's Joker is actually quite good, but I don't know about Batman's voice actor.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think me personally, I probably would have put up with the gameplay type stuff a lot more if it was, based on Adam West Batman. Just like some days you just can't get rid of a bomb kind of thing.
Well, see, that's one of the things I really like about Batman, though, is because there are so many different interpretations of the character and such. And different people love different ones. But the Arkham games, it's sort of like it is a mishmash of like the animated series and the way the comics have been since sort of like the mid '80s and such, which should both of them together is my Batman. So seeing it on screen, it's just like, it's Batman. Ooh.
Yeah. I think the most disappointing thing I heard about this is about the games. Sorry, is that Origin? Have you heard of Origins Blackgate?
Oh yeah.
I
don't know much about it.
It's a 3DS one that's made as a side scroller, so it's sort of like a Metroidvania, and it's been developed by some ex-developers from Retro Studios who made Metroid Prime.
Ah.
However, it's apparently really terrible. It's like even worse than than a lot of people have been saying about the console one. Which console version of Origins are you getting?
It's only one I can get is Wii U. So
yeah, slight problem. I say because that version doesn't have the multiplayer, but then it's also multiplayer no one's playing anyway.
Yeah, it's I probably wouldn't play it anyway, so it's not something that's missed, but
it's still not great.
Don't like it on principle.
Yeah, I don't like that they would remove it, but still I wouldn't care too much about the multiplayer in a Batman game like that. So yeah, looking forward. Anything else? Any other games? Or shall I go?
I'm not. Well, next year's sort of the big ones in terms of Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, and Donkey Kong, and such.
And X and Bayonetta 2.
Yeah, it's like they go without saying. Yeah. The other day, Hyrule Warriors was announced.
Oh yeah,
which
brilliant.
I'm sort of hesitant on because I've never played any Dynasty Warriors stuff.
Right.
So I don't know if it'll be my thing or not.
I think
so.
The best. Have you ever played like a game like a brawler like Streets of Rage or anything like that?
Yeah.
Right. Imagine that in 3D, but only instead of it being like one or two people trying to attack you, it's whole armies, and you play like a general.
Yeah. Well, I've got that from it, but I'm not sure. I don't know. In my head, I can't really see how that translates to a full game. In a way.
Well, the way it works in the Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors and Dynasty Warriors Gundam and all them is that you have a level layout, like a large battlefield, and there are certain like command points, and each of these command points sort of spawns out enemies, or like it's like a gate or something like that where enemies will run through, and so the idea is you've got to run there. Defeat a certain number of enemies there, and then their commander will appear. Kill their commander, and then it becomes yours. And so it's kind of got like elements of real-time strategy. I mean, you don't actually like imagine a real-time strategy game where the strategy plays itself, and you're sort of working in accordance with that. So it's all about control points and stuff like that. And then, of course, they sometimes have like a larger overall world map. Like some of them have modes based on this, some of them are like standalone expansions where you have like regions on a map and armies, and so it's like, oh well, these armies have got these territories, and so then you're trying to sort of advance on. Yes, I'm still there, thanks. Did you get that thing as well?
No, I heard the beep though.
Okay.
The old familiar beep.
So yeah, the...
Oh, there's mine.
Right, okay, there you go. So it can be sort of like the on the battle arena, and then it can also zoom out to like a world map where you choose which way your armies are going to fight and which generals are going to fight there and things like that. So it has a lot of potential. They also generally have like a lot of playable characters, but we've only seen Link so far. Yeah. So if it's only Link, then that could be a problem. But, you know, I've heard people saying things like, you know, you could have all sorts of, you know, more obscure characters like the Happy Mask Salesman being playable. Things like that. Because that's what...
That'd be nice.
That's what the Dynasty Warriors games are like. You know, you've got the generals and then the wives of the generals, and then like a random... They also do like Warriors Orochi, which is like its own spin-off. Like all of their series spun off into like an original story where they battle a demon. So that's Samurai Warriors, Dynasty Warriors. They don't do Dynasty Warriors Gundam, probably for licensing issues. They had the latest one. They had Joan of Arc from Bladestorm, and Achilles from Legends of Troy, And then they've got like Dead or Alive characters and Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden as well. So it's generally just like an all-star mashup kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like Smash Brothers, but on a larger scale. Just imagine like every sort of minor character in a Zelda game that, like in any Zelda game, that you thought, oh, they're a bit weird, and now they're being thrown in this. I mean, you'd have Ravio from A Link Between Worlds as a playable character. You could have, who else? Who's a legend? You could have that
Bruce.
Yeah, you could have Bruce. Yeah, he would be brilliant with his floppy hair. You could have that weird looking guy on the what's it called? In Skyward Sword, there's that island where you get thrown up in a cannon and you've got to land on a target.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that guy. Yahoo! He goes all the time. You could play as Beedle. You could play as anyone. It's got a lot of potential. At the very least, it will be fun for me. Anyway, it's just it's not a technical game. It's just the idea is that you hit enemies and they die, and then you do the same at a command point, and then that command point is yours, and you just keep doing that until you face the boss at the end of the level. And then sort of when you get better at that, it's more about maintaining high combos, so you can get like through the whole army, the whole battlefield, like of having without losing your combo. So you can end up like killing everyone in like continuously. So yeah, it's got a lot of promise. But is there anything else you're looking forward to?
Nothing springing to mind right away.
Anything from this year that you haven't bought, aside from the ones we've mentioned, that you're sort of like wanting to buy, like maybe Bravely Default?
Yeah, that's one that I've been considering. There's the free, is it like demo / prologue type thing?
Yes.
Which I was, I like the concept of it. So I've decided to download that demo / prologue, whatever, simply based on like the idea.
Yeah.
I haven't played it yet, but it'll probably be something like around New Year's or whatever.
I haven't played the whole demo, but it's, as far as I know, it's about 10 hours of content.
Really?
Well, it's including grinding. There's 3 dungeons.
Yeah.
And then there's all.
I thought it was just like an hour.
I assume if you're good enough at it, you can probably do it in an hour. But yeah, Bravely Default. I've not played that much of it. I've only really played the prologue chapter from the game, which is about like the first 5 or so hours, and it's loosely based on. Have you ever played Final Fantasy the 4 Heroes of Light on DS?
I didn't even know it existed.
Right, because that was a spin-off that is inspired by Final Fantasy 3. Now this is like a whole new series, but it's inspired by Final Fantasy 5. The idea is that 5 was focused a lot on job switching, so you could have like characters have their own level, and then they have like a job level, so that they have to level up the job before they can learn all the. Say for example, if they're a white mage, you can't just switch to being a white mage and then be able to use all of the high level spells. You need to train up in them. So there's things like that, and then there's a move set thing, because the way that a lot of the from Final Fantasy 4 to 9, and then also a couple of other ones later on, like 13 and 10-2, they use what's called the active time battle system, which means that time continuously goes on as you decide what the moves are. So if you wait too long, you'll lose the chance to get moves. This uses the concept of set amount of time for moves, but it still does it in a strictly turn-based, no time limit kind of sense. So what happens is you can go, I think it's like up to -4. So what you do is you can save up turns or use turns in one go. So you say, for example, you start off with 0 as your bravery level. So you can do one move. You can attack an enemy, and then that will be your move. And then the next time the turn comes around, you can attack straight away. Or you can get that character to do 4 moves in one go. Just crackle something. You can get that character to do 4 moves in one go, and then it will be another 3 moves before they can attack again. If you get me. So it's all about all about deciding. Then on the other side of it, you can also get an extra move for another turn by choosing default, which sort of defends, and then at the same time saves your bravery for the next turn. And so you can have, I think it's up to a maximum of 3 bravery, and then of course you can use up to 4. So what it means is in 2 consecutive turns you could have up to 8 moves if you planned it correctly. So it's all about, it's a great little system for meddling around with, and I like it a lot. There's microtransactions in the game, but I've not felt the need to use them. There's these things called sleep points, and the idea is that you...
Oh yeah, I remember them saying them on the direct, although I can't remember what
what they do is you close your 3DS, and then it saves up points, and so for every 8 hours it gives you a new point, up to a maximum of 3, and then you can beyond that you can buy tonics to sort of restock you, but then all you need to do is close the 3DS for a day and you're fully restocked again. But I don't really want to use that. It seems too much like cheating to me. But the problem I'm having is I've got that and A Link Between Worlds, and I can never decide which I'm going to play. So, which is it's kind of a good problem to have in a way.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it.
But yeah, it's been a great game. It's been a great game for years. It's been a great year for games, rather, all round. But the 3DS has been a real runaway success this year. I hope that Nintendo can turn around the Wii U by marketing it, actually putting adverts on TV that don't mislead consumers into thinking it's just an accessory for the Wii and things like that.
Oh, did you see that one that was released the other day? It was a 2-minute... It seemed like an infomercial in a way, just look at this, the new Wii U.
I'd heard about this. I've not actually seen it yet. No, go on, tell me.
Yeah, well, there's a weird reaction people have had to it. A lot of people are like, yes, this is the advert that the Wii U needs, which in a sense it is, because it is sort of it tells you everything that you need to know. It's just right, it's a new console, does this, does that, does that. But it's done in a really sort of cheesy way, but not intentionally cheesy. It really seems like something that would come on at about 5 a.m. when there's no actual programs being broadcast in between one for a hose and a learning French DVD set or something. Yeah. It's I don't know. It's not the right. It's the right sentiment, but not the right approach.
Right. Because what were your opinions on that E3 thing last year, where they had a video explaining Miiverse, and I thought, because I wasn't sure whether that was intentional. Do you remember which one I mean? The non-specific action, non-specific action figure.
Yeah, no, that was definitely intentional.
Right. Okay.
I thought.
Yeah. But I thought that was brilliant because it was sort of,
Yeah, I really enjoyed
Yeah, because
that.
it was funny in a cute and charming way. But one thing I think Nintendo should be doing is being a lot more sort of assertive about how good their game lineup is. Because if you look at the Xbox One adverts they're showing at the moment, the first thing they show on it is a mech from Titanfall. Now, Titanfall isn't coming out until March. So I think it would be okay for Nintendo to do full Wii U adverts for things that, including X, including Bayonetta, including Smash Brothers, including Mario Kart right now. I think it would be appropriate to do that. Obviously, also include The Wonderful 101 and Pikmin 3, because they haven't been advertised, really. I mean, I heard that Pikmin 3 received an advert on Cartoon Network, but
I think I saw an advert, but I can't remember it. I think it's they probably really should get a different marketing team in.
Yeah.
And it's not even to do. I don't know. It's like I just found it really weird how the PS4 and the Xbox One came out with this huge fanfare, and everyone knew that these were coming out. But the Wii U didn't have. People didn't even know it was out when it was out. They didn't even know it was announced. Which I went and picked Chris Walken then. Didn't know it was announced.
But
So I don't know. And I hate to be one of those sort of like armchair analyst people who are just like, oh no, they should be doing this, because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes really at all. So I don't like to be presumptuous or anything. But I think marketing isn't their strong point.
Because I'm saying this because obviously, the PS4 has broken records with its console launch, and yet there's the only one game worth playing on it, as far as I'm concerned, that is exclusive, is Resogun. And that's a downloadable game that's not that expensive, and you're paying 350 quid for it, for the whole thing.
Well, like the people I know who've got it, they just got Call of Duty with it, which they already had on PS3.
Yeah, I know. And then there's other people who are saying, "Oh well, Battlefield." I probably shouldn't talk about these because they're not aimed at me. I don't think.
Yeah.
But I do like. Oh, here we go. I like good shooters. I don't like the modern military type shooters. They bore me to death. I also don't.
I think that's my sort of main problem with it. It's just like because they're all like modern and trying to be sort of like realistic and such. I really don't care what's going on in it. Yeah. Throw in some aliens or something, and then I'm like, all right, it's something fun.
Oh, the new Call of Duty does have aliens.
Oh, I've heard, but one of my mates was eager to tell me that, as if it'll make me rush out and go and buy it. But it's not the same. It's not the same. But the thing is, as well, even though Call of Duty and such is on Wii U, but it's not a big seller on the system, which it does show it is a different audience. But should Nintendo be trying to get that audience, or should they just try and focus on who they have now? Yeah. It's a weird kind of thing, because a lot of the main criticizers of like, oh, Nintendo should be doing this, should be doing that, we're never going to get one anyway. So I don't know. It's weird. Yeah. Gamers are weird.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I think that who Nintendo need to be aiming at is people. Well, this is just such an nebulous thing, but they need to be aiming it at people who don't realize the Wii U is what they're looking for. I see a lot of people complaining about issues with, with the Xbox One. A lot of games have launched with microtransactions. Crimson Dragon, Rise, Forza 5, and yet these aren't really issues on the Wii U. You're not having to do lengthy installations of like a 50 gig game. You might have to do a little one for an update, but not like a massive like time sink, or things like that. It's also the only console, aside from if we're going back to 7th gen systems, that you don't have to pay to go online for. The PS4 now requires PlayStation Plus to go online, although in their defense, PlayStation Plus does have great value in terms of you pay this subscription fee and then they give you free games, essentially. But again, then this comes back to a whole thing I'm struggling with, is I don't like buying digital games a lot. If I can avoid it, I get a physical copy of everything, just because I'm afraid. Like, say for example, one with the I think part of it's because of the PS3 doesn't allow you to change your ID name type thing in the system. So it means that all the purchases, I have to either keep my username with the more masculine name, which I don't want anymore, or do I and if I move, which I have done now, to a new account, I've lost all the purchases. Now I can still play the games, but do you get what I mean? It's more of an issue on the PS Vita, where I spent way too much money when it came out, on games. Sort of like buyer's remorse. I just like bought loads of games, and now I can't use any of them unless I, go back and change the accounts back to the original one, because I didn't want to touch that account anymore. So yeah, if I just bought physical copies of all my Vita games, then I probably would have. I mean, for one, I would have sold half of them by now. But the ones that I kept, I would still be able to play. you know, so that's something I wouldn't say paranoid, because obviously I see. It seems like I can actually reason it through, but yeah, physical media is something I want to try and stick to, and of course, as I say, Nintendo being very generally sort of pro-consumer. Obviously, they've had the issues with the Let's Players, but I think that to an extent they need to be taken down a peg or two, because
Well, I think with that as well, wasn't that actually not something that was done with some of like the main guys at Nintendo's knowledge? It was just sort of the lawyer. It's like, because that's what companies have, lawyers who actively go out and just look for stuff that may infringe copyright, and it's just those guys, without asking permission or anything, just went whoa, request takedown. But then that's a big thing that's going on at the minute as well.
Well, yeah, that's partly
I don't know much about it, but I don't know.
It's mostly due to the
something's going on.
It's a new content ID system on YouTube.
Yeah.
Say, for example, there are... I heard... I don't know exactly what it is, but Terry Cavanagh, who made Super Hexagon and VVVVVV, he, like, one of his trailers has his own music on it, but this third party claimed it in Content ID match. So he now has to get it whitelisted by them, because it's I don't know exactly what his involvement with them was, but I think it. See, it's okay. We're back. So I can put a cut there. But yeah, hopefully, I want Nintendo to be rewarded for doing what I see as being the. I wouldn't say that they're faultless, but to me, they're the ones who have my best interests in mind in the terms of the games that they release. Pikmin 3 and the Wonderful 101. That they are dream games to me.
Well, they're doing like everything right, but it's not really appreciated in a way.
And then of course,
I think I think a lot of it is just sort of an image problem.
Well,
no one sort of wants to take notice just because they've disowned Nintendo for whatever reason or something. I don't know, because everyone's got different reasons. Back in the GameCube days, it was apparently too kiddie.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how. I still don't see how. And then when the Wii came out, people were just like, "Oh, the casuals." Well, if you buy some games as well, they might make some fucking new.
Yeah. And then they're like, "Oh, but it doesn't have enough graphics."
Yeah.
But yeah. Obviously, they make the games that I want, and see, this is the other thing: is they say, "Oh, but all Nintendo ever do is Mario and Zelda." They're the only games you're paying attention to.
Well, that's another thing. Is what I saw the other day on Facebook. Someone posted the Mario 3D World trailer.
Yeah.
And like the first comment is just like, "Oh, Mario again," but later on in the comments they said they hadn't actually played Mario since Mario 64.
Yeah.
So, that kind of stuff annoys me, and it's also very typical as well.
Yeah.
As you get a lot of talk of people just saying like, "Oh, they're rehashing this and that, and there's nothing new." Well,
and then
there is.
And then of course they say that without playing it.
Exactly.
The only thing I am a little worried about is that I want EAD Tokyo to move on to something new. And they made Galaxy 1 and 2, they made 3D Land and 3D World. The rumour is, I say rumour, I'm taking this based on things that Miyamoto said. And I think the head of EAD Tokyo, when he was showing off the game at E3, that they've got something else in the works at the moment. And I was hoping, at E3, oh, maybe it's a new IP. Maybe it's a Star Tropics game, because that's what I want. Because I'm an idiot, I want a new Star Tropics game. Obviously, everyone wants Retro to be doing it, but EAD Tokyo would be great as well. But what I'm worrying about is because what Miyamoto's saying, that Galaxy isn't a dead series. So I'm worrying that like next year or the year after it's going to be Galaxy 3. Now I loved Galaxy 2.
Well, I was already dodgy with 3D World when that was announced, because I was a bit. It seemed sort of the same as what we'd already done before, but then like as it got closer to release and such, to release more of it, and I thought, oh no, this. All right, I'm down with this again. I'm down with it, and now I'm like really excited to play it.
Yeah. But my issue is that, you see, I thought Galaxy was all right, but I thought Galaxy 2 was definitely like one of the best games I've ever played. It's definitely the best 3D platformer I've played, and one of the most sort of varied, and sort of like, bang, we got an idea, forget it. Bang, we got another idea, forget it. Like that for the whole game, for like, all 100 and whatever stars. But at the same time, I realise that I will love it if they do create a Galaxy 3. But I wonder what they could do that would be new enough and keep it fresh, or make it better than 2. I don't think they can, and I don't think there's much point in doing it. I mean, I'd rather see HD ports, and by ports I mean literally just ports, not necessarily looking like Wind Waker HD or anything like that, but just like HD versions of Wii games on, like kind of like creating their own system that runs a bit like Dolphin. Because that would be great. I mean, obviously, people would be angry if they couldn't just use the discs, but then that wouldn't be possible, would it? They'd have to port it. And especially since on the 360 they had similar problems because they didn't have backwards compatibility, they had forwards compatibility. They had to patch everything to make it work, but when it did work, it worked in HD, although sometimes it would run it like 10 frames a second or something. But yeah, I think
another thing Nintendo they probably should do is take, they've got all these different, characters and such, different series, but they should sort of focus on like what is, say what is Metroid for this generation going to be, and what is Kirby for this generation going to be, because sort of like the arse end of the Wii, it seemed like any sort of coming soon stuff for the Wii, it was all 2D side scroll and stuff, and there's just the overabundance of that, because you had
maybe in 20
Metroid Other M looks like a 2D side scroller. Say if you're just watching it in a montage video. You had 2 Kirby games. You had the new Super Mario Brothers, then you had Donkey Kong Country Returns, and I think that sort of put off a lot of people. Because I know like whenever I say like I'd show someone a trailer, they'd just go, oh yeah, it's just new Super Mario Brothers again, but which in a way I can see that, but can also see that they're great for what they are. I think it should probably go back to say how it was with the GameCube, maybe, where like say Mario was 3D platformer, Metroid was the first person. Don't want to say shooting everything because it's
adventure. They say first person adventure.
Yeah, first person adventure. Zelda was your action adventure type thing. I think they should. I think that's how I'd like to see them do it. And like maybe say for this generation, just have Donkey Kong be your 2D platformer, and then Mario's doing something else, and then Kirby's doing this and that. That's something I'd like to see.
Yeah, I'm a 3D Kirby. Just thinking.
Well, they did Kirby 64.
Yeah, but they also, I mean, like 3D movement. Because they also had the that other Wii one, Return to Dream, Kirby Adventure Wii. It was called.
Yeah, there's.
You know what I mean?
Was it?
Kirby's Adventure Wii. It was called Return to Dreamland in the US.
Yeah.
But I mean, like
I played the US version.
I mean, 3D movement. The closest we've had to that is probably Kid Icarus Uprising. See, that's another thing that Nintendo can do, and indeed they have done, is resurrecting dead intellectual property. Well, no one would say that about Pikmin, really, because it was announced in E3 2008, and of course it's only just come out now, 5 years later. But that series was, there was 9 years between installments there. I mean, how many years was it between the Game Boy Kid Icarus game and the 3DS one? It was like 20 years or something, wasn't it? And then similarly, Sin and Punishment. That's another one of my top 5 games ever. And then the original one. Really sort of interesting, and I love all treasure games pretty much. And then the new one just sort of like took it and then had a control scheme that made it a lot easier. But then because they made it a lot easier, they could make the game a lot harder rather than you wrestling with the controls. And then that could have only been done on the Wii. So things like that, I love. I mean, it's the Wii U is already, in my eyes, in this first year, the best system for local multiplayer. You've got.
Oh well, the amount of hours I've got out of Nintendo Land alone.
Yeah. You've got Nintendo Land. You've got the King of the Zombies mode in Zombie U. You've got the co-op stuff in The Wonderful 101. things like this. I'm trying to think of. There's a couple others. Like the multiplayer in Mario 3D World. It's absolutely ridiculous. Everyone running at different speeds and jump heights and stuff. But that doesn't sell seemingly to a lot of people. And you also got like Wii Karaoke U, and you've still got the updated versions of Wii Sports if you want them. But a lot of people don't, and that's okay. But I think that if Nintendo can push their consumer-friendly stuff, if they can get on the side of Let's Players a bit, or if they can try and make them see, you are making stuff with our copyrighted material, you need our permission to monetize the content. Now, I think they need to have some sort of system in place for doing that. Think about the way that news, like gaming news outlets and the like, have non-disclosure agreements and the like. Yeah, things like that, where you would be embargoed from posting, say, for example, the video of the final boss in the first week, or something like that. Because that's obviously. So there's going to be a lot of people. I say a lot of people. There will be people who will see that and go, "Oh well, I've seen the ending. I don't need to buy it now." So that's something that Nintendo are not going to want people to do. But at the same time, they should allow. I think they should allow people to monetize their content. It seems it depends on. See, I don't like a lot of Let's Plays, and I don't think the majority of them should be monetized. But I think there needs to be sort of like an independent tribunal or something for judging whether a Let's Play is enough of a derivative work to be considered its own thing in copyright terms.
It's a murky area, really. Ish. I don't know. It's because there's been like a lot of fuss about it lately with the whole YouTube thing and such. It's like I've never really been big on Let's Plays at all. Really, I only ever put one on if I'm stuck, and I'm like, I need to find out how can I get there. Right, every single fucking video is a Let's Play. Fucking click it. But mute it so I don't have to hear what they're saying as well, and then just go there. Thank you very much. But it's like I don't. Like, if you put yourself doing a film commentary on YouTube, you get taken down right away.
Exactly. You need to do the audio.
If you do the same type of thing for with a game, it's a big injustice and such. Now you can. There's different arguments and such. And I don't even know where I stand on it myself.
I try to be as open as possible.
Personally, I'd actually probably prefer it to be more like the way it is for games now in terms of films and such. I'd like to be able to just go and like watch someone's commentary, because I listen to commentary podcasts and such quite a lot, and it'd be nice to just click play and there it is instead of having to sync it up with DVD and whatever.
But then again, I was just thinking then about Metal Gear Solid 4, because in that game you have. You actually have an iPod, and you can download podcasts onto it in game, and then they will like give you like a director's commentary type thing over it. So they can say, "Oh, well, now walk to such and such a place," and then they can do things like that. And I think, that's something that would be a lot easier to protect. Also, so would reviews easy to protect, opinion pieces easy to protect. So are speedruns, because they're skill-based. If you're... I don't want to name names, but, if you're the kind of person who seems to be either inept to the point of you're not capable of showing off a game properly, then I think you should probably be... I there's a certain Let's Player in particular, I think shouldn't be allowed to monetize content. I just don't want to name names. But essentially, if anyone is still listening at this point from my Twitter feed, you all know who I'm talking about because you all complain about him as well. But yeah, I think then people who make Let's Plays need to understand that we should have a discussion on this. They shouldn't just go, oh, well, I made a thing. This is my livelihood now. When, especially since it's, it's shaky ground. And when it's based on a third-party site like YouTube, you need to probably not try and base your whole livelihood around it. It would be wise not to.
Well, as well, I didn't even know people could monetize Let's Plays until the whole kerfuffle started. I just assumed myself, oh, just, that's not, it's, you don't own the content, so no, you can't make money off that. So I don't know, it was quite surprising to see so many people apparently making a living doing this. Yeah. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to decide where I stand on it.
Yeah. What was I going to say? One final point I think on it is that one thing I heard recently was a Zelda fan film. There's been loads of them, haven't there? That have all been.
Oh yeah.
And they've like a recent one got C&D'd, and then everyone was like, "Oh, dick move, Nintendo." And I was like, "Well, no, it's their copyright, it's their choice." If you're making a fan project, you should do one of two things. One, you should make sure you have the permission ahead of time, so you don't waste like hours, weeks, months of your own time on something that you can never use in or distribute in any kind of sense. Or the other thing should be, if you are going to do that and without asking for permission, you should make it so that you can remove all copyrighted material like the instant that you could get slapped with a hypothetical C&D. So yeah, say for example,
speaking of that Zelda fan film, if it's the one I'm thinking of,
it was this year, if that helps.
Was it this year? Because I know there was a big kerfuffle about one called The Hero of Time.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago.
But that actually got shut down for quite a legitimate reason, I thought.
What was that?
I can't remember. That's one try to remember. I think they were trying to monetize it in some way or not. I might be thinking of the wrong one, so sorry if you're listening. And
it's not likely. It's not likely they're listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, say for example, if you're making a Zelda fan film, make sure that you have alternate costumes and sort of like configurations of makeup and equipment and everything, and so there's no Triforce in you've got like an alternate sort of like banner with no Triforce, or like you could replace the Triforce with something else in the actual object itself. Like the Master Sword doesn't look like the Master Sword, Link doesn't look like Link. It's like completely its own thing, and then it can be an original film, and then you can make money off it, and it can just be inspired by Zelda. It's.
Yeah, I think the things with fan films for me, because fan films is sort of my background in a weird way.
Oh, right.
With Star Wars fan films, that's how I got into the whole making of films type thing. So the general consensus has always been, if you don't make any money off it, if you're not intending to make any money off it, you're fine. And that was just basically what Lucasfilm has said in regards to Star Wars fan films. Yeah. But it's one that most other people have sort of, adopted that policy anyway. So whenever there's a fan work with me, I'm always, in my mind, if you're doing it for free, it's fine. If you start trying to charge people for it, then it's risky business.
Yeah, I personally, because this is the whole thing, is I always try and stay neutral. I personally would rather that Nintendo would allow these, people to make a fan film. It will endear the fans to them more likely. Like those people, like Capcom, from what I remember, were quite good with the team who made that Mega Man fan film a few years ago.
Yeah.
All they had to do was just say, this is not made by Capcom. This is, and sort of like a disclaimer kind of thing. And then they were fine. But, Nintendo and any other publisher are still entitled to protect their IP in no matter how tenuous a way it seems. But, yeah, I still think that allowing people to make the films they want, I think it's the better. Well, it's always the better option, but they are still entitled to it. So yeah, it's again thorny issue. So
copyright, eh?
Yeah. So I
it's probably all gonna get fucked in a few years anyway.
Yeah.
And so don't know what direction or something's gonna happen to it. It's yeah.
So she's actually deleted it now, but I received one question before, which was, this year, what has been... This is me paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact wording. What has made you lose faith in humanity the most?
And
this...
Nothing, really. I'm not that kind of person. So... I'm insanely optimistic about everything, pretty much. So, yeah, nothing. If anything's a bit dodgy, just watch something on Upworthy or something.
Or happy news.
Happy news is always happy.
Yeah. Yeah, in my case, I'll often be like...
Oh, wait, actually, no. There is a massive injustice going on in Liverpool at the minute.
Oh yeah, I heard this. Go on.
Yes. Possibly Liverpool's greatest chippy, the lobster pot. In a bit of a kerfuffle with the new Forever 21, which is directly opposite, and now they're not happy. You see, all right, I'll give them this. Lobster Pot had table and chairs outside when they didn't have a license for. All right, shouldn't have done that. Smack on the bum.
Okay.
But they're applying for a license. They're waiting on permissions and such. But Forever 21 aren't happy about this because they don't like the smell of a chippy. Well, guess what? You shouldn't have built your shop opposite a bloody chippy now, should you? Nope. So yeah, if you want to go on facebook.com/justice for the lobster pot. You can join the cause. We're about 150 strong at the minute. So, always be positive in this situation.
Just quickly, I find that when something like that, like really bad, makes me lose faith in humanity, I find that either there's sometimes like an aspect of it, like part of the response that makes me feel better, or like say for example when we had the riots a couple of years ago, when that happened, like the way that the communities pulled together to rebuild afterwards, and things like that, generally, obviously it shows that there are always going to be great people who are able to try and make up for terrible things. Well,
that's the thing. People, some are going to be cunts, some are going to be all right. Yeah. Just try and make sure you're in all right, and you'll be sound. I've got a little saying that a lot of people tend to enjoy. Yeah. It has actually took off. People are saying this shit in Barnsley, right? If you can have a laugh, you're all right.
Yep, words
it's true. If you can have a laugh, you're all right. If you're moaning all the time about, there's all this going on, have a laugh. You'll be all right,
Indeed.
It's basically a messed about, always look on the bright side of life, but fuck off. I like it.
All right, so I think that's it. Have you got any plans for Christmas?
Doctor Who.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Doctor Who, Mario, Zelda. Just yeah, it's gonna be one of those years.
Yeah. In my case, because we aren't getting the same relatives round we used to do. It's just going to be like the two of us. So what's probably going to happen is, because when you have lots of relatives, you sometimes have to make a lot of compromises to what you want to do just to like please everyone. Yeah. So what we'd usually have done was like have, like turkey or something. Like, and I'm not a fan of turkey because it's a bit too dry for me. So we're having like this time, just because I suggested it as an idea, we're having Toad in the Hole for our Christmas lunch, and then we're having lime cheesecake for dessert. so that's great. It's like little. I always like making food like that. I'm always the one bashing the biscuits into the pot with like a rolling pin. It's always
speaking of not getting turkey.
Yeah.
We haven't got a turkey this year.
What are you having?
It wasn't intended though. My mum went shopping. She thought, "Oh, go to M&S, go posh."
Yeah.
She went to get the turkey. Bought it. Went, there we go. That'll do. Bought it. Bagged it. Fucked up.
Yeah.
Got home. My nan was looking in the fridge. That's not turkey, that.
What is it?
What? It's a chicken.
Oh.
Is it? No, because she saw it's a chicken that's wrapped in like bacon and such.
Oh, right.
But because it was next to all the turkey, she just thought it was a turkey with bacon over it. Yeah. And she didn't read it. So yeah, we were having a chicken with bacon.
Yeah. So yeah, winding down now. Anything else you want to discuss about the coming year, the Christmas period? Anything like that before we?
Not particularly. But if we're gonna end, I may as well end on a plug.
Yeah, go on. Plug your stuff.
Two plugs. If you've liked what you've heard, you can go to extendededition.net and listen to a podcast with me on, and some other ones who aren't as good, but we won't mention them. Yeah, it's all about me, really. Yeah. Oh, they're gonna kill me if they hear that. But yeah, you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/extendededitionpodcast, twitter.com/extedition, and we're also on iTunes Extended Edition. And I'm also, I'll tell you, Extended Edition, it's mostly, I don't want to say mostly, it's like the thing on the website says a podcast about watching films. Well, it's not really about watching films, it's about whatever we just decide, that week. The latest episode is about Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and, we've had a Pokemon episode, and there's all sorts of goodness going around. But I'm also, I've recently started another podcast, which only has one episode up at the minute, called Jabba Chops. You can find us on just iTunes at the minute, I think. iTunes and Facebook. So if you search Jabba Chops on iTunes, that's JABBER Chops. And on Facebook as well, you'll find us. And that's just me and a couple of other people having a laugh and being all right.
All right. I'll just finish with with my plugs. On Twitter, I'm Somnilotti, SOMNILOTTIE. I've also you may be watching this on YouTube, in which case you already know my account. But if you're not, then my YouTube account is Somniferous Lottie, SOMNIFEROUS, and then Lottie.
Could have picked an easier one.
I could have picked an easier name, but I like the word somniferous too much. It's my second favourite word after defenestration. But
just pick cheese.
Cheese Lottie, yeah. That'll be it, Cheese Lottie. That's my new account that I'm just setting up right now. And then also, again, somniferous on Miiverse if you want to look at my stupid doodles that I make. So, yeah.
Someone drew a cock on my Miiverse the other day. I wasn't happy. I got reported.
So yeah, this has been a podcast which I have not
Derek.
which may be called Derek.
He is called Derek.
All right, that's at the very least that's the name of the episode. A podcast called Derek.
Okay. I'll settle for that.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know when I'm going to be doing more of these. It could be in the new year. It could be anytime. It could make them weekly, monthly, fortnightly, whatever. I'll just do them whenever with whoever's available. Yeah, and of course it would help.
I'm beatboxing you out.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll see you next
Talk
time.
over it.
Yeah, bye.
Derek.